Hello, good evening, Social Change Warriors and friends of Social Change Warriors. I'm Catherine Felton Page, your founder and host of our movement, our program, Social Change Warriors. And I have beside me Amber KR, my second chair, my friend, my partner in non-crime. We are calling out corruption on Thursday nights. We are trying to motivate citizens, community members, friends to just not stand by anymore. It's hard to do. We know it's hard to do, but we're here to motivate you. We're here to help you in your communities and call out the crime and corruption. We're also here to support murder victims and their families. Nobody should have to go through the murder of a family member or a loyal friend. And especially when either the wrong person is being trying to be convicted or is in jail or is in trial, and the right person that we want arrested, that we want to go to jail, is out running around free. We can't stand for that anymore in our communities, and we have to bind together. We need to be social change warriors and make a difference in this world. So welcome back. We had a break for Christmas and New Year, but we're super glad to be back, and we hope you all had a lovely time with your families. We are feeling the pain for some of the tragedies that have gone on in the last couple months that we're going to talk about here in a minute. And also a happy new year to all of you. And we hope that you have a very successful, happy year. If there's problems, and there will be, there's always ways to cope and deal, right? And that's why we're talking about being your own best friend tonight. And what does that mean? And what is friendship? And where did it start? And what does that mean to you and for you in your life? And what does it mean for communities? Can we be our own best friend and still be our own and be a community's best friend and help our communities? How do we weave that together? So as per usual, as you know, my past is in journalism and writing and presenting. So I do love to use my deck. Amber's gotten used to it. So we're going to bring our deck up for a minute and share a few slides with you before we have an amazing, stellar panel tonight for you to meet. We have advocates from all over the country that are advocating for justice and advocating for their loved one or their family member who was murdered. So we are so honored to have them tonight that they considered our channel and that they wanted to be part of our live show tonight. And I will introduce them to you very quickly. I just have a very brief opening tonight. I want to remind you that Thursdays is our night for calling out corruption. So if you have some crime or some corrupt government and you have found out about it in your communities, but you don't know what to do, please get a hold of us. You can always reach out to us on Twitter. My DMs are open. You can reach out to me on Facebook, Social Change Warriors Facebook. The private message is open. You can email me. We'll put the email address in the chat box. So please, I'll banner it on the bottom too. I'll do that in a little bit when the guests come up. But please get a hold of us. We want to help you. We want to motivate you. We want to see what we can do to bring the corruption out in the light where it needs to be instead of in the hiding in the darkness. So don't forget about us on Thursday nights. We're live at 8 o'clock Eastern every Thursday unless otherwise announced. Wednesdays is our night for women. I wanted to have a show about women empowerment. I wanted to talk about things that matter to women. And I also wanted to honor victims of domestic violence. Some of those cross over to the corruption night because some of their cases involve corruption with police and government. But for the most part, we're honoring women on Wednesdays. We're talking about anything that matters to women. So if you have a topic or a subject or anything that you want me to talk about on a Wednesday, we can talk about it. And so coming up in a couple of weeks, or is it next week, the 15th? I'll double check and I'll let you know at the end. But we're going to call out some men. So not all men. We're just calling out the men that are dumb, the ones who don't treat us right, the ones who do really stupid acts that are just ridiculous. So I'm going to share some pretty crazy dating stories with you of my life since my divorce. Some of the other guests are going to share some of their stories with you. And again, we're not man shaming. We're shaming the men that are dumb, that treat us bad. And there are plenty of them, unfortunately. So that will be our calling. That'll be on Wednesday for our Angry Bitch Club. The Angry Bees will be buzzing about men are dumb. And then on a Thursday night coming up on the 9th, we have Ed Byers coming back, and he's going to update us on what has been going on in Indiana, and you will not believe it. The level of corruption and how far up the food chain of politics it goes is shocking. And if we think that it's only happening in Massachusetts with the Karen Reed and John O'Keefe, and in Indiana where Ed Byers, think again, because it's happening in Pennsylvania, and Nicole and I will talk to you about that tonight when we talk about Ellen Greenberg. It's happening in Florida. Michelle and I will share with you, and Amber and Annette, we will share with you what's happening in Florida, looking for the sister of Michelle, Sarah Ebersol. We will talk about Sandra Birchmore in Stoughton, Massachusetts. We will talk about several other victims who are being completely railroaded by corrupt government and corrupt police. And we have a special guest tonight, Colleen, who's going to share with us all of her efforts to clean up the state of Massachusetts. And you will not believe what's going on in Massachusetts. So we got a lot going on, and it's going to be a very jam-packed show tonight. So if you have any questions, I'm going to keep up in the chat box the best I can. And we'll look forward to seeing you for our future shows on Wednesdays and Thursday nights at 8 Eastern. But tonight, our topic is for calling out corruption, because that's what we're doing tonight. And we're honoring everybody who's willing to be their own best friend and also be a best friend to the victims and their families. And first of all, I just want to take a minute to thank President Jimmy Carter. Regardless of how you vote, nobody can say one bad word about this man. He dedicated his life to service. He was a shining light. This was my tweet that I put up. Rest in peace, Jimmy Carter. You will always be a shining light of fair politics and political service to your country. Your post-presidency will live in infamy. You are the GOAT, the greatest of all time, because you lived an ethical life of service and putting everyone but yourself first. Thank you. Say hi to your beautiful bride of 77 years, Rosalind Carter, who was an activist and amazing First Lady. I respected this man. I thought of him in the highest regard, and I always will. I got some backlash, as you can expect, on Twitter. And that was disappointing to me, because there are times when politics has to stop with the hate. It has to stop. You have to look at a person for who they are and stop putting a label on them. There are so many politicians, both on the left, the right, the middle, the green, the blue, the red, that are doing their best to represent us in Congress and Senate, represent us as governors, represent us on school boards, and every little thing you can imagine, city councils, county boards. There's so many select boards. We don't want to talk about them, but there are some good ones out there. Not some good ones in Massachusetts, apparently, but definitely around the country. So please, I'm asking all of you. I did a live show after the election where I made a plea. Try to be more understanding of each other. Try to understand we all have ways of looking at things. We all have policies that matter to us. That doesn't make us evil. That doesn't make us your enemy. This is a man who needs to be respected and honored by everyone. And I hope you'll all watch his state funeral and pay him the respect that he deserves. Thank you, guys. I also need to make a comment about the terror attack in New Orleans. Absolutely horrific. The death toll was up to 15 when I last checked the news today, 25 injured, and many of them are critical. It's heartbreaking that this type of terrorism and somebody's need to kill someone else to make a statement is happening. But you know what, guys? I'm going to be totally blunt with you here. This will never end, okay? It will not end, because there will always be very evil and unbalanced people in this world. Whether they're evil from the get-go and we never saw it, nobody ever recognized it, or they became so unbalanced that their only mission in life is to kill someone else. That's a job for a psychiatrist. But I will tell you, this will not stop. We're never going to stop it, because there's always going to be somebody who's unbalanced and not well in the world and having evil intentions. I believe one of the police chief of New Orleans, I thought she was amazing today in her interview. If you get a chance, go look that up. She was honest. She was transparent. She said, we won't ever be able to stop all this, but we have to understand that if because of course they're criticizing them because they took the barriers down because they're replacing them for the Super Bowl. So they're being criticized for putting more emphasis on the Super Bowl than on the Sugar Bowl, which in my opinion, as a former law enforcement, should have had equal standing. But the city, I guess the money didn't come through in time, or the planning, but they tried to make it right. They put police cars all along this area where these barriers would have been. It wasn't as if they ignored it and just took the barriers down. But a terrorist is going to find a way, guys. They're going to find a way. They're going to get past the barriers. They're going to do whatever they have to do to wreak havoc, because this was planned out months in advance. So I would like everyone to give some grace to the city of New Orleans. They've had enough. They've been through so much with all the hurricanes and the flooding and all the death tolls. Let's give them some grace, because as they were saying on the news today, hindsight is 20/20. We can always armchair quarterback everything to death and say, oh, I would have done this. She should have done that. Why didn't he do that? Sure, we can do that, but we always need to step back and have a little grace for this city is hurting. They've had a terrorist attack take place now, and now they have to try to figure this all out. as far as what they do forward now between now and the Super Bowl. They postponed the Sugar Bowl. It was played today, but that to me was a risk. And so they wanted to get it played, but man, with everything going on. So our condolences, our prayers, thoughts, everything we can throw at the victims and their families in New Orleans, we will do that. I hate that tagline everyone uses, thoughts and prayers, but it is what it is. Like we're thinking of them, we're praying for them, we're sad for them. But I wish we could come up with something that felt a little more genuine, because when I hear it, I just don't feel genuine with it anymore because it's so overused. So I really wish we could come up with something that felt more genuine. And that's why I said I'm going to throw everything I can from Social Change Warriors to New Orleans, to this beautiful town and all its history. We're so sorry that this happened. It could happen anywhere. So scary. So we have to just continue to learn from these tragedies the best we can and support victims, because like I said, it will happen again. We just don't know when and where. And it's horrific every time. All we can do is our best to prevent them, but we can't stay holed up in our houses. We can't be afraid all the time. We can't do that either. So there was also a car that blew up. It was one of Elon Musk's Teslas. It blew up in front of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. And that is still a developing story. What I heard today is that the owner of this truck was in the same military base as the person who committed the terrorist attacks in New Orleans. So the FBI is obviously all over it, and all the police officials. There'll be more updates coming in the news, but I couldn't not mention that because there is a possibility it's connected. Both these men were at the same military base at the same time, but we don't know. So there's the sadness that we had to see, and the terror and horror. And I needed to talk about that. I couldn't just do a live and talk about good things before we talk about our victims and supporting our victims without the current new victims that have now entered the platform. And it's just horrific. So that's that for now. So we'll continue to keep everybody in our thoughts, and we will continue to pray for all of the victims and all of the survivors and their families. So while I was thinking about doing this live stream about Be Your Own Best Friend, I'll tell you where this came from. So originally, when I was a police officer and I started working in community policing, I wanted to do more work with alcoholism with teenagers, because it was really affecting me how many teenagers I was taking to detox on a weekly basis, how many I should have taken but didn't need to take because they were borderline, and I just made sure they didn't have any more alcohol and that they had a person there with them in case they needed to go to the ER. It just was constant. And I thought, I've got to do something. So I became a community police officer, and I asked for permission to create a program for alcohol awareness for teenagers. And at some point I will live about that. And I'm hoping you'll share it out with anyone you know that's a teenager or a college student. And it's called Tough Choices. And it's about all the choices that we have to make when we're teenagers involving alcoholism. I have a separate presentation for drugs because that's a separate issue. This was just about alcoholism in teenagers. And it was shocking to me how many kids I met that admitted to me that they started drinking when they were 12, 13 years old. I'm still stunned by it, and I'll always be stunned by it. But when I was doing this presentation, I talked a lot about how you have to be your own best friend, that there's so much peer pressure in the world, and that's going to stay with you for your entire life. So you have to learn to be your own best friend and make decisions that are going to be important for you and that are going to protect you, because no one's ever going to protect you like you can protect yourself. And especially from this type of peer pressure in high school and in college to drink, because drinking is so socially acceptable everywhere in the world, but we place so much emphasis on it. So it's a very difficult, why do we place so much emphasis on drinking? I don't personally think it should be that way. I think it should be a side note, to everything else you do when you go out or when you celebrate or when you go to a sporting event or when you go to a play or whatever it is you love to do. Why do we put so much emphasis on alcohol? That's the number one thing we have to figure out before we can fix a problem. We have to understand how it evolved and why we have it. So that's what Tough Choices was about. And I used to talk about being your own best friend. So after the last few months of watching so much go on with a lot of these victims and cases and frustrations, and a lot of online bullying in the different communities that I've been following and the different cases, I was just really wanting to do something positive for this first New Year episode and honor people that are fighting for other people, that are willing to be their own best friend and others' own best friends. So that's where we came up with this episode tonight and why we invited the guests that we invited. So I found this song and I completely forgot this song existed when I was doing my research on friendship and being your own best friend. And I'm not going to play it because I don't understand yet all the strikes that are involved with YouTube, and I don't want to give us a strike, but I know I could play about 30 seconds of it and it would be educational. So I know we can do it, but I don't think it's worth it tonight. So I will play it again once I figure out how I get the permissions to use it better. But I would love for you, if Amber, if you can get that link and get it in the chat box for us. This is a beautiful song, and it's just got the best lyrics, and I think you'll really enjoy listening to it. It's from 1978, which was my freshman year in high school, believe it or not. But I really wanted I put this song on my Twitter, so you can go there to get the link as well. And it's also on Facebook. So, but we'll put it in the chat, and I will figure out how I can just clip it for like even a minute and use it educationally for our next live, and we'll play it live for you. But it's a beautiful song, so please take a listen to it. And I'm going to introduce Amber, who is my second chair. She started live streaming with me back in September. We met during the Karen Read, John O'Keefe trial. And she lives actually in my hometown, which is ironic. Her and her husband moved here for a job, and we met on the Karen Read trial chats. And that's how we became friends. And we did a standout here back in, I think, August or September, Amber. So I'm going to let her introduce herself, and then I'm going to bring up all the guests one at a time. So go ahead, Amber, say hi to everybody.
Hello, everybody. I am excited for 2025 and what we can do and how empowered we can be. And I'm excited for our guests. And that's about all I have to say today. I'm not snarky anymore. I'm just the fat PHAT one from Wisconsin. So I'm trying to lessen the snark and be a nicer person.
Amber, you are a very nice person. So backstory to our audience is that Amber took some heat for some snark that she was kind of putting in the chat boxes of some other content creators that we were having some, I felt, constructive criticism with, but they didn't take it that way. So Amber and I kind of got wrapped up in a very interesting situation, which we're not going to talk about tonight, but we did do a live about it. So if you're interested in it, go back to our library, go on our channel, click our lives, look for the episode we did about all of the kind of drama and very sadly, criticism and a lot of low blows that social change warriors and Amber and I have had to suck up the last few weeks, so last few months actually. But that's the story for another day. We may cover that again at some point. But tonight is all about survivors and victims and their families. So I'm going to bring up our guests one at a time and have them introduce themselves to you. First and foremost, I'm bringing up here our special guest tonight, who's been doing a lot of amazing groundwork in Massachusetts. Her name is Colleen. I'm bringing her up to the stage. Welcome, Colleen, to Social Change Warriors.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's so great to have you. Can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how you got on this journey?
So I'm born and raised in Massachusetts, and 6 years ago, I moved south of Boston. And I started working in Canton, Massachusetts with my longtime partner, Jeffrey Farrington, at a small business. And I dealt with a lot of craziness and corruption, scumbag cops. I mean, I don't sugarcoat things. I call it how it is. And it caused me a lot of emotional distress because, just Jeff telling me, he's a man. Oh, just be quiet. It's all background noise. And I'm like, no, I don't want to be quiet. I want to go direct to them and tell them how I feel and everything. And so I just started, going to the town hall meetings. I started going down to the town hall. I was having meetings at town hall with, the select board members and, different people that work there. And I was writing letters. I was sending emails. I go, this needs to stop. This needs to stop. I don't know what you guys are doing here. You guys already look bad on national television. Do you want me to come out as a small business owner in this town and expose you for what you're doing here? And so some changes have happened, little changes, which is a little step in the right direction, but more change needs to happen in Canton. I call it Clown Town. I call Canton Clown Town.
Colleen, can you tell us a little bit of the background of exactly what happened and the fight that started over the business and the land and all that kind of stuff? I want to get a little bit more of the background of how we got here.
But time out, Amber, because first I'm going to introduce all the guests and then she's going to do that. So this is just
okay.
This is just a quick introduction of each guest, and then because I want them to be on the stage to hear about Colleen and all of her efforts. So thank you.
Absolutely.
So Colleen, I'll get right back to you. Next, I want to bring up Nicole onto the stage. Nicole is representing the Justice for Ellen Greenberg movement. Welcome, Nicole.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming, Nicole. We really appreciate it. Our audience has gotten to know Ellen. We've done several lives about Ellen Greenberg and her tragic death back in 2011. It's hard to believe it's been that long, and there is still the person who murdered her roaming the streets of America, and that is just wrong. And we will have you, I'd like you to just introduce yourself, tell us how you got involved, and then we'll come back around to you in a little bit and you can tell us more about Ellen.
Right. Well, my name is Nicole Luongo. I live in Plantation, Florida. I'm a disability advocate. I was born with mild cerebral palsy. I'm an author of a poetry book, and I'm a published writer. And I think you wanted to know how did I get involved in the Ellen Justice for Ellen? Well, a couple of months ago, I was watching Surviving the Survivor podcast with Joel Waldman, and he talked about the case and was encouraging people to help in any way that they can. And so that's where I got started.
It's wonderful. And then you and I met via Twitter. I think you contacted me or reached out to me, and then I reached back to you. I don't remember who reached out to who, but I know that we both were interested in Ellen and what's been going on with her murder investigation. Now, just so you're all clear, those of you that aren't aware, this is a case in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I'll be talking about it in a little while. Ellen, her death is still ruled a suicide. Unaliving. I can't use that word, or they'll get rid of us. Unaliving. So that is a very difficult topic because her parents have been fighting for years for that to be overturned and to be ruled a homicide. So we'll get into that a little more later today or later tonight. So thank you so much for being here, Nicole. All right, next up on the stage, I'm going to bring up, where is Michelle? This is a big green room for me tonight. Here's Michelle. Going to bring Michelle to the stage. You guys have gotten to know her in the last month. We've had 2 live shows now about her sister, Sarah Ebersol, who is missing in the Ocala area, Marion County area of Florida. And we'll be talking more about that case as we move through the evening. Michelle, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you guys will hear soon that Michelle has worked tirelessly to try to solve this missing person's case, who is her own sister, who's been missing since 2021. It'll be 2 years in March, right, Michelle?
Since 2023.
Oh, I'm sorry, 2023, but it'll be 2 years in March, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So we'll be getting into that a little later tonight in the show, and we're going to be happy to talk with you more about Sarah and how we can help to locate her and get this case where it should be. All right. Last but not least, we are bringing up Reality Check. Welcome to the stage, Reality Check. It's great to see you. Oh, you're muted. We'll give you a second. Hit your unmute, or I can do it for you too.
Hello, hello.
There you go. You are unmuted.
So first, I have 2 spirit animals. One is Colleen.
I love it.
And I wore this shirt specifically for her. And it says, I should come with a warning label.
I love it.
And then the other one is SD back here. That girl is out there by herself fighting for justice and to expose corruption. I started out, I've had several talks with Kat. I am a domestic violence survivor. And so are my children. I got involved a few years ago with the Stephen Avery case, met some very awesome researchers, Ripper Jack, Jay Jacks, Dr. Silkman. I got to learn a lot from them. Eric Cozy, you're up in heaven, but you're watching us fight corruption. And then I started watching Karen Reed's case with Emily D. Baker. I watched it as a juror.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started connecting with people. Colleen and I have become very good friends.
That's
I
wonderful.
love what she's doing. She's standing up for herself. A lot of these
We're-
people.
We're going to hear about it in about 2 seconds.
Yep. So that's how I got involved.
Thank you.
And
my
I'm
sweet-
excited to dig into these other cases, Ellen Greenberg, and especially Michelle's sister. It breaks my heart.
All of our cases break our hearts, and there'll be more, sadly, that we will find and be covering on our channel, Social Change Warriors. So thank you all for being here, ladies. I'm so honored that you all joined us tonight. Can't wait for you to talk to us about your backgrounds and your stories. And then we'll do kind of more of a roundtable towards the end. You'll each kind of get your own turn. First of all, I want to just say thank you to everyone that's live here tonight. We're still, a very slow moving, growing channel. Our lives are not, usually we have 10 to 20 live, but our playbacks have been doing fantastic. We're up in the 200 to 300s now, which is really great for a startup channel. We started at ground zero with 50 subscribers back in August. And now we're only in January. So we're just trying to do this the right way. We're trying to do a slow build and just bring in people that care about the victims that we're covering, care about calling out crime and corruption. We are not here for profit. We are here as a nonprofit. And if we ever do accept donations, those will all be put back into the program and into our victims' funds to help our families. So I want to just start to draw a little attention tonight who is here live. I want to thank my friend Kathy for showing up at as almost all of our live shows she's been able to be at, and she's watched them all in replay when she can't make it. I love this quote she put up. Would you take better care of yourself? Would you be kinder to yourself? Would you be more forgiving of your human imperfections if you realized your best friend was yourself? And I really love that, Kathy. That's beautiful. And it's so true. And that's, our topic tonight is how important it is to be your own best friend in this world, because you have to love yourself. You have to be kind to yourself before you can help others. If you're constantly helping others and you're neglecting your own wants and needs, that is not going to work in the long run, guys. It's just, ladies and gentlemen, it just won't. So this is wonderful. Thank you so much. Amber put up, thanks for coming tonight. We have a lot of guests tonight and a lot to discuss. Happy New Year, everyone. Thanks, Amber. Reality check, so excited. Let's go down here in the chat box. Amber says hi to Kathy. And Kathy, okay, we got this one. Who is always with you everywhere? Who is on your side when others are unfair? And tell me who will never let you down in any situation, who will always see you get your share. I love these quotes that Kathy's sharing tonight. Welcome, Tyre. Good evening. Welcome to our live stream. It's so good to have you, and it's so good to have you on board. And you and I must chat. Kathy has sharing these great quotes with us tonight, and that's why I am a best friend to myself and take me out whenever I feel low, and I make my life as happy as a best friend would. I'm as nice to me as anyone I know. I love that. That is so great. Hey, ladies, let's chat about that for just a minute. Do you try to practice this? Let's just go around the room. Amber.
Am I a best friend to myself when I feel low?
Or do you think you've tried to be, or do you want to be?
I'm definitely striving for it. And I think for the most part, I've come around. It took a long time to feel comfortable in my own skin and to be happy with who I am and who God made me to be. So it's always a work in progress, though. We always have those thoughts where we're not good enough or we let people get to us. And I'm working on it. And I think I'm doing all right.
Fantastic. Colleen?
Yeah, so I think I'm like my own best friend. I mean, it took a long time to be able to, learn how to be by yourself and to deal with the thoughts that go in your head, because sometimes those thoughts in your head can make you go crazy. So it takes a lot of practice and a lot of discipline and a lot of, learning about yourself and just being your own best friend, just self-care and learning how to deal with those. Sometimes it feels like the devil's in your head with those crazy thoughts, and how you can get through them and how you handle them, and not going down the wrong path, such as drinking and drugging, to deal with those bad thoughts. That's a whole other story that I can get into.
Oh, absolutely. Though, I mean, self-care is, it's kind of a term of the 90s and 2000s. We didn't really use that term back when I was growing up. There really was. Can everybody mute? We're getting some feedback when you're not talking. Is everybody? Oh, everybody is. Okay. There it is. It's gone. It's such a big deal now. People talk about it everywhere. I mean, there's books written about it. There's TED Talks. There's live streams. Self-care. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, boo! I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that psycho mumbo jumbo." You can just hear the Grinch. Like the Grinch who stole Christmas. Like, don't talk to me about self-care. But seriously, it's important. Like, it is so important. You can call it anything you want. You can call it taking care of me. You don't have to use the psychology words or what you feel is like now become mainstream lingo. Just think of it, taking care of yourself at least like once a week. Do something that matters to you, not to your kids, your husband, your partner, your mother, your sister, your dog, your cat, to you and you only. It's so huge. Like, it's so much huger than anyone really believes or understands. We live in such a busy world where our time is so precious. We get so little of it to ourselves. And I loved what Colleen said about, learning to be by yourself, learning to be alone. It's most people never do that. They're just constantly on the go, constantly surrounded by people, pets, kids, family, obligations, sporting events, you name it, knitting clubs. Kathy's in a crocheting club. I mean, not that that's all bad. It's all good. It's good to have hobbies. It's good to have friends and loved ones and family and all that. But the balance is huge. The balance is huge. And most of us don't get that right. It takes us years and years and years to figure that out. So thank you, Amber and Colleen, for what you just said. Reality check.
I'm very bad at this. I don't do it. I am a person, I'm a giver. And I guess that's one of my love languages. So I try to do for everybody else and I neglect myself. But I'll try to do better. I mean, it makes me happy when I see other people happy. So that's me.
Hey, that's a great trait. And there's nothing wrong with that. I can tell you right now, knowing the little bit I know about each of you in this room, I know the most about Amber, probably the second most about you, Reality Check, then Michelle, then Nicole and Colleen, because I just met you, but you're all givers, or you wouldn't be on this channel right now. You wouldn't be here. You're giving to your communities. You're giving to the victims that you're standing for. You're giving to everything that you're working on as a give. It's something you don't have to do. You're not getting paid to do it. None of us in this room are getting paid to be here tonight. The channel is not monetized. We are here of our own free will because we care about others. So there's never anything wrong with that. As long as you don't forget to include yourself in there a little bit. Like I said, even if it's just once a week, it matters and it's something. And you can just strive to put it on your calendar, whatever day it is or whatever hour you sneak in. That's me. Just put in me and that's it. Nobody else is getting this hour or this 2 hours but me. That's what we all have to strive to do.
You know my story though. I have 2 special needs children that live with me on top of my daughter and my granddaughter and my husband. So I don't have a lot of me time.
No, you don't, but you can find it. You got to find it at least 1 hour a week, because that is how you stay sane. That's how you take care of you, because you can't take care of all those other people if you're not taking care of yourself in some way. So thank you.
You're going to keep me on track.
I will. Okay, Michelle.
Well, I'm probably different than everybody. I don't feel like I need to befriend myself. I feel like I'm a pretty strong, independent person. And I think that I'm pretty resilient. And I think I'm able to kind of empower other people and help them through their pain.
That's fantastic. And we already know that about you based on what you've been involved with and your constant tireless work for your sister. But as a social worker, I am going to ask you to consider it. Just consider 1 hour of me time for Michelle. That's it.
Oh, I have plenty of me time for me. I have a husband that helps out a lot, even though I have 4 kids. I just biked 50 miles yesterday.
All right. I love it. That's great. Well, then you get to lecture. You get to have a live with me then, and you and I are going to talk about self-care and me time because you've got it down.
I fit a lot of things into one day.
I love it. I love it. Nicole?
Yes. So my story is a little bit different. I'm alone 24/7. So I have to be my own best friend. It's important that I am because it's just me, myself, and I over here. And one of the things I love to do is exercise. And that's part of, what I do for self-care. And I agree with you. It's so important. Anything that you can do to move your body and also take care of your mental health.
That's great to hear that you're taking care of yourself, but you're not alone. You have a lot of people out there that are inspired by what you're doing and your advocacy, and you have 5 new friends in this room right now.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, guys. I really loved Kathy. Thank you so much for getting us into a roundtable. That was a fantastic comment. I'm just peeking really quick to see. Oh, Julie, craziest person on earth. I love this woman's hag chick. I got to get to know you better, Julie. Hey, everyone. Happy New Year. Kat, Amber. Thank you, Paul. I love that, Julie. So thank you, Paul, is something that Oblivious Benson has a live stream. And if you ever just need to be away from everything stressful for 1 or 2 hours, please go to her channel, Oblivious Benson. She is a good friend of Auntie Deb's, who has been our parody comedy for the Karen Reed, John O'Keefe situation, where in the heat of all of the drama and sadness and just crazy corruption that's going on, Auntie Deb has managed to come up with this amazing channel where she parodies many of the participants in this trial, the witnesses, and it's just the best parody that you'll ever see. And yes, we do need to find some type of humor sometimes when we are involved in true crime and in murder cases at the level that we are all involved in, the 6 of us. It is okay to find some laughter in some of it. It's okay to kind of have something be funny, because otherwise it's going to be overwhelming. Yes.
Can you boot the troll in the chat, please?
Who is that?
It looks like Big Mike Ross, unless I'm misunderstanding his comment, but I'd rather
Okay,
get any negativity out of here.
I have to kind of go down. I'm not going to boot him because we've had a lot of trolls, Amber and I, the last few months that have come after my politics, that have come after my channel, come after me personally, called me names, told me I wasn't a cop, told me I wasn't a redhead, for God's sake. My mother begs to differ, by the way. Amber and I have been trolled and bullied the last few months. I have no clue why. I really don't, because all we ever did was have some constructive criticism for some of the other content creators, which the last time I checked, constructive criticism is okay. So I'm good with that. So actually, Amber, I appreciate it, but I'm not booting anyone tonight. I'm just going to let it fly because I don't want to spend that time away from my ladies. So if you want to troll Big Mike, you troll. If we are misinterpreting you, then we will be happy to say we're sorry. So let us know.
I'm not sure if it's aimed at one of our guests. That's the only reason. If it's aimed at us, let it roll. But I don't like anybody messing with anybody in chat or one of our guests. So that's the only reason I brought it up.
Yeah, I don't see it. Where is it? I'm trying to look for it. I don't want to spend too much time. So I'll just get to it in a minute while someone's talking. I'll keep up with the chat the best I can, guys. So thank you, Amber, for pointing that out. And so let's go with, anyway, hi, Julie. Glad to have you as always. And I'm just going to pop my deck back up here real quick. So I did a little bit of research about friendships. And when it comes to friendships, there are actually, the magic number appears to be 3. That most people, and this is research, and it's in the deck, the research that I found. And if you're interested in reading this article about this research that was done, I'm happy to share it with any of you anytime. 3 appears to be the magic number for most people. Have 3 really close friends. And the numbers that come after that are considered friends, good friends, but not really close friends. So 3 seems to be the magic number. Now, I find that interesting because I have definitely had more than 3 close friends at any one given time in my life. So I find that number to be interesting, but I'm an extrovert. So for me, I just walk around. I make friends on planes, trains, and automobiles. So I'm always having new friends, but not necessarily super close friends. And that's where it gets kind of edgy. Like, how do we determine the difference between a best friend, a close friend, an associate, a casual friend? Like, how do you break all that up, right? It's a lot, but I thought this was an interesting study. So next month in February, which is my birthday month, we're going to have an episode about friendship. We're going to talk about what does it mean to be a best friend? How many best friends does somebody normally have? What qualifies you to be someone's best friend? And what's the difference between a best friend, a good friend, a casual friend, an acquaintance? So that's what we're going to do next month in February. So that's why I wanted to chat about it a little bit. The earliest known use of this noun best friend is all the way back to the Middle English period, believe it or not, 1150 to 1500. And it's hard to see the slide when I've got everybody here. Let me see if I can move us around. There we go. Now I have to click on something to get that. There we go. So the Old English Dictionary's earliest evidence for best friend, though, is from 1225 in St. Juliana. So I just never knew that. You know, we take so many things for granted, like where did this particular name that we put on somebody come from? BFF, or bestie, as the kids are using now, that's just new, guys. That was added to the dictionary in like 2010. I think bestie. So anyway, that's just some history. This is a link that I wanted to show you guys so you could look it up if you wanted to, but it's a really interesting article. So if you have time and I can see if I'll try to get it into the chat box for you. Otherwise, I will put this link on my Twitter and on my Facebook. This is a really interesting article about friendships and how long does it take to make a friend. And we will be talking about this article in the live in February. But if you're interested in reading it beforehand, I'll make sure you can get to it. And then we will also be chatting, sadly, when friendships end, because some do. And I've had some long-term friendships end, and it is painful. It doesn't get enough credit. It doesn't get enough airtime. We're always talking about boyfriends, marriages ending, relationships ending, but we very rarely talk about friendships ending. It's almost like people don't think that happens, but it does happen. Some friendships run out of time. And when that happens on one end and it's not mutual, it's very, very painful. At least it was for me the few times that it has happened. So we will talk about that as well in February when we do the live, and that'll be on a Wednesday night during the Angry Bees, where we'll go into this interesting topic about what does it mean to be someone's best friend, and how do you play a role in that. I love this, and I'm going to put this up on Twitter and Facebook. The older I get, the more I realize that sometimes people's actions are the closure. Waiting for explanations or apologies that never come can keep us stuck in a cycle of frustration. Learning to accept Whoops, I clicked on the wrong thing. Sorry, guys. Learning to accept what is without needing a final word is its own kind of freedom. And I just really thought this was spectacular. I love following projecthappiness.org. If you're having a bad day, just find Project Happiness, because they will find a way to help you think through it and meme you into a happier mood, just like music can do. But we'll talk a little bit about this when we talk about best friends and friendships ending and why they end. So being your own best friend this is out of an article that I also will put up on Twitter if you want to read it yourself. This is paraphrased from the journal article. Being your own best friend means non-judgmentally listening to yourself, validating your emotions and motivations for doing what you've done. And it's also about accepting not only your truth, but your inability to sometimes fully accept your own truth. So I want to talk about this with everybody, because this is very important. Because in order to be someone else's best friend and to fight against corruption and crime and to stand for murder victims, you really do have to understand what being your own best friend means and how important it is to completely and non-judgmentally listen to yourself and validate your own emotions. So I just would like to go around again. Let me bring you all back. Away from the deck and talk about this for a minute, because I think that's an important piece to being your own best friend. And then we're going to move on into who you're standing for and why you are being the best friend of someone in your community who has passed away, or someone that you met via live streaming who has passed away. So let's start with Colleen.
Hi. Okay, so you want me to go back into the deep background of Walpole Terrace and the business? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Walpole Terrace, it was originally a dirt driveway, and there are 4 pieces of property on that street now. Well, So my boyfriend, Jeff, he was the mechanic for the previous owner, and this business has been established for 30 years. Okay. It was built in 1993 on this dirt driveway, which was originally all industrial. This whole area was industrial back in the 90s. And this business has been there since. So there's this corrupt cop, Charlie Ray from Canton, Massachusetts, who lived at 44 Walpole Terrace. So Jeff was the mechanic for the previous owner, and Jeff ended up buying the business from the owner in 2012. He bought the business, and then he bought the property right behind it, which is a 2-bedroom house. And there was a cop that was living at the end of the street. Well, originally, I have a whole map and everything. I've gone through this. Originally, his front door went off of Walpole Street. Walpole Terrace is a little, like I said, a dirt driveway, like a cow path. And so when Jeff bought the business, Charlie Ray decided to change his front door to his back, to the back. And then he went to the town hall and changed the zoning and turned the dirt driveway into a town road, which has caused complete headaches for this business ever since he's gone and done that. So and I've gone into this whole thing with so Charlie Ray did this because Walpole Street is a main road, right? It connects to Sharon, is right by the viaduct in Canton. If you're familiar with Canton, it's right by where the train bridge and everything. It's a very busy road. So his driveway was coming off the main street. Well, he had a cop car. So Charlie changed his front door to his back door so he could park his cop car on a dead-end road behind his house, and nobody could see him when he was working overtime. And he was at home sleeping on the job when he was collecting overtime money. So he did this to purposely screw with Jeff in the business. He's mad because he wanted to buy the business, but he didn't have enough money. He didn't collect enough overtime money to buy the property. So joke's on you, Charlie. He took Jeff to court. He took Jeff to court. He lost. He ended up moving out in 2016. So we have new neighbors there. And then in 2020, when I was working there, there's another property, which is 43 Walpole Terrace. That previous owner was a veteran. He went crazy, ended up going to jail. And when he was in jail, that's when Charlie went down to town hall to change the zoning because that man couldn't vouch for his own property about changing the zoning. So we ended up buying that property in 2020, and it was originally industrial. So that's the beginning of the drama. And then I started working there in 2020 during the height of COVID, when nobody was working. I got laid off from my job at the time, and Jeff needed help at the shop. So I started working there, and this cop kept showing up on Friday nights and Saturday mornings for traffic violations on a dead-end road. Okay? Traffic violations on a dead-end road. And I'm like, and I'm by myself, and I'm like, and I go to Jeff, I go, Jeff, one time this cop, his name's Eric Wade. I call him a predator cop, Eric Wade in Canton, and I'm going to get into him. And one time he showed up on a Saturday morning, right? And Jeff was on the side of the street on the forklift. So you couldn't really see him because he was sitting on the forklift. And I see this, and I'm at the back of Walpole Terrace, and I see this cop pulling down the street. And he was here the night before. He was there the night before. And I start freaking out, right? I lose my shit. I go, why is there a cop here? There's another cop. There's a cop pulling down the road. What are you doing here? Why are you showing up? Nothing's going on, right? My hands are going crazy and losing my shit. Jeff jumps off the forklift, and Eric Wade was like, oh, I just came down here to say how great the place looks, and you cleaned it up, and you guys did a good job. I go, yeah, right, dude. I go, get out of here, right? And so he goes, oh, you're feisty. I go, yeah, I'm feisty. Why the fuck are you sorry? Why are you showing up? And then he stopped coming by for a while. But then the building inspector, Ed Walsh, which I have nicknames for all these guys, Uncle Ed, started showing up with Eric Wade to issue tickets for the business. $500 weekly tickets. And it was looking like a junkyard, too much equipment. Oh, and then they went into the storage containers on 43 Walpole Terrace, which was originally, we got a storage container because when we bought that property, we got a lot of rain in 2021. The basement flooded. The tenants needed to clean out the basement. We had to dry out the basement, rip out the rugs, and we put all their stuff in the storage container on the property, right? And we ended up just keeping the storage container because, it was extra storage. We didn't know we had to get a permit. Well, those tenants left. We ended up putting equipment stored like backpack blowers because it's an outdoor power equipment business. So it's lawnmowers, snow blowers, backpack blowers, chainsaws, generators, all this outdoor power equipment stuff. And we were putting it in the storage container. Well, it's a circus. I just laugh because it's such a circus.
So Colleen, I have to ask. So I want any questions from the crowd. Like, let's pause here and let's recap because you just told us a lot, and this is like mind-boggling to me. Like the stuff that people try to get away with in positions of power because they are egomaniacs. We're going to be doing a show about narcissism and narcissistic behavior coming up. I advertised that like 2 weeks ago already because there's a lot of that going on in a lot of these cases. That's why we have all this corruption, because a lot of people that have narcissistic tendencies and narcissistic egomaniac type personalities, they are driven to these high level positions because they need it. They need to soak in all that attention. They can't survive without it. And they absolutely feel like they can do anything they want. They feel they are above the law. They do not think they're ever going to get caught. So we're dealing with definitely some of that, if not full blown by a psychiatrist diagnosing them, but a lot of narcissists don't get diagnosed because they will not ever admit they have a problem. So they don't go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist. So we can only do our own armchair, diagnosis based on what we know about the disorder and what causes it. And so we're going to have a couple social workers, licensed therapists come on and chat with me in a couple weeks about this personality disorder, because it's very prevalent to me in all these cases that we're following and in these suspects, these murder victim suspects for sure. So who has a question? Just raise your hand and I'll call on you for Colleen. Amber?
I have so many questions, but I'll start with just one. Do you think that they were targeting you more than Jeff because you're a female, or do you think that they targeted you both equally? Because to me, it seems like they were just completely harassing you guys and trying to terrorize you guys because you beat them in a sense.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the harassment starts with Jeff and jealousy, and because he got that business at a young age. He was hardworking, did side jobs because he's a mechanic. He worked his ass off and saved a lot of money and was able to buy that property on his own with no help in his early 30s. And I think, Charlie's, around the same age as him and is just jealous, thinking like he was going to buy the property for, pennies on the dollar. And it didn't happen like that. So I think it's been pure harassment because of jealousy from a corrupt cop, Charlie Ray. And then I think it started with Eric Wade, the predator cop, Eric Wade, who's been known in the town as being a predator. Like it's known. I think that whole situation, he saw the new blonde working at the shop and wanted to see what was going on. And he started showing up there. Now, was it because because of his reputation, it gave me bad vibes that I didn't trust it? Or was he coming down there to be an informant for somebody because they're trying to harass Jeff out of the whole area? So, it's hard to say because I can never get a direct answer. They lie to your faces. Like I said, I write emails. I've gone down to the town hall building. I've stomped into their offices and demanded answers. And they just lie. It's lie after lie after lie after lie. You can never get an honest answer out of these washed up men. It's disgusting.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Did they do this with your boyfriend in his shop before you entered the picture? Were they always going there and surveilling the place or checking things out?
So Ed would come down, and because of the zoning changes, they made different rules about equipment, like having how many pieces of equipment you can put outside. So he would come down and tell Jeff, all right, the place is getting a little messy, it needs to be cleaned up. or the place, during COVID, that's when I first ran into Uncle Ed, and he jumps out of his town car with his ticket book and issues a ticket during COVID when the world shut down and we can't get parts to fix equipment and get it out of there. It's like, listen, you think we want this equipment sitting around here? We want to get it repaired and out the door so we can get paid. It's not making us any money sitting in the parking lot, like make it make sense. But he's just so ticket happy. So I think the tickets started getting more and more when I was there. It wasn't as bad before I started working.
Interesting. Annette, I'm going to get to you in 2 seconds. I just put up Julie's question for you, Colleen. That's the same cop that caused problems at the town meetings, right?
Who, Charlie or Eric Wade? Because I haven't seen them at town meetings.
Which one?
I think she thought I think she thought Eric Wade, because when she put the comment up, it was when you were talking about him.
Okay, because Eric Wade is, okay, and I can go into Eric Wade and his like affiliation with the whole Karen Reed case, because there's a rumor going around that after the whole John O'Keefe situation, he went to the neighbor's house with a bag full of cash because their fence was damaged right after everything. It's dirty.
I think we only have the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
There's so much. It's just, that's Karen Reed part is just the tip of the iceberg. It goes so much deeper.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have Annette ask you your question. Then I'm going to pop over to Nicole and we're going to chat with her a little bit. And then we're going to pop over to Michelle and chat with her a little bit. Then we're going to come back to you and then we'll go back around. That way everybody kind of keeps we change directions a little bit. So we keep everybody going with our different topics that we're covering and our victims that we're covering. Go ahead, Annette.
Okay. I'm sorry that I had a sad face. I got a text message from somebody who is actually going to the FBI and they were sending me a message. So I'm kind of excited about that.
Okay.
But Colleen, if you're comfortable sharing, her and I have had a couple of conversations about things that are even up and beyond this. I messaged her about somebody that was concerned about her safety, and then Colleen messaged me. So if you're willing to share that, I would love for you to do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So also these scumbags, they send. Okay, so I've had like suspicious cars drive by my house. I moved. So Jeff and I sold our house in June, and we bought a new place out of Canton, away from the area. And I woke up and there was a suspicious car outside my house. There's undercover cops driving up and down Walpole Terrace. When I would be at the shop on a Saturday, because I'm not at the shop full time anymore. I couldn't take it anymore. I completely left everything last year and moved to New Hampshire by myself with my dogs. I was like, I'm out of here. This shit is a fucking circus. It's crazy. I can't deal with this shit, But I ended up coming back, because they approved $7,000 of taxpayers' money to survey the street, which should have been done 30 years ago when they decided, to change a dirt driveway into a town road. Like, what are we doing here? We're 20 years behind schedule because I exposed your bullshit. Like, wake up, guys. You fell asleep behind the wheel. So it's just complete craziness. But I was at the shop on a Saturday afternoon. It was around 5:00, and you could only see my car parked out front of the shop. And there was a Canton cop that showed up there, and I lost my shit. I went right down to the police department with the video surveillance, and I've terrorized the town right back. I've gave them a taste of their own medicine, and they don't like it. But there's a private investigator that works for the whole McAlbert clan. There's a private investigator that drives around people's houses that are very outspoken, like, just intimidating people for speaking out. Now the cop, I don't know if it was a cop. I don't know what it was. It was a suspicious car. Freaks me out. I don't know what it was. I was just on a podcast that night, and then I saw the suspicious car parked across the field of my house, and I saw them drive around the corner, and I'm on a cul-de-sac, so it's a dead-end road. Drive around the corner, past my house, very slowly, parked at the end of my driveway, and I got this on camera on my phone. I recorded it, and then turn around and then took off in a black Dodge Yeah. So they just try to intimidate you, but it's just like, you're not going to intimidate me. I got cameras everywhere. And it's like, I took a step back and I'm like, is this serious right now? Like, I really want to run out of my house with a baseball bat and scare them right back. But it's like, what kind of craziness am I dealing with on their end? Like, I can get crazy and I can scare you too. But like, I'm like, they're going to pull a gun on me and shoot me in my front yard. You never know.
You're
But the truth
dealing with a lot of, like you said, it's beyond craziness. This is corruption. What we are talking about in these cases that we're all covering tonight is corruption. And there are levels of it. And some corruption has 1 or 2 levels. It doesn't go very high. It doesn't go very low. Some corruption is like a 7-layer cake. And the top of the cake is the top of the cream of the politics of your state. And when you get involved in that, you can get involved in very scary territory where people will threaten you and threaten your family and your life. And people have been killed over this kind of corruption because they don't want you to uncover them. They want to keep living their little corrupt lives and doing what they're doing and getting away with it. Look at how long Sandra Birchmore was abused right under the noses of the Stoughton police, the Canton police, the Massachusetts State Police. It's beyond disgusting and absurd. And we'll talk about that in a minute, but didn't mean to go off track there. But that case really gets my blood boiling because that should never happen, ever happen. There should be gatekeepers. There should be checks and balances for this type of level of corruption. But there just is not, because there's too many people involved in this for their own self-serving purposes. That's what we're dealing with in all of these cases that we're talking about tonight. So thank you, Colleen. This is really amazing work that you've been doing, and calling out this corruption like this is just, it's shocking, but it's not shocking because it's happening in every state. But a lot of people do not have the tenacity like you do to go up against this because these people think they're protected. They think they can't lose. They think no one's going to take them down. And that's where community comes together. That's where community voices come together. Raise Your Voice, one of our hashtags, and Just Us. That's our hashtag because sometimes it is just us. We have to stand together. We, the people, have to stand together against corrupt government and corrupt politics, or they're never going to be brought to talk, brought to where the level that we need them to be brought to end it. So thank you. So let's switch gears here for a minute and we'll come back around to Colleen here in a second. Let me figure out so one of our hashtags that we've brought on board for the Angry Bitch Club on Wednesdays, the Angry Bees, and for calling out corruption on Thursdays is My Life Mattered. Because so many times with a lot of missing persons cases, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of them. When I did research on how many active missing person cases there are in the United States, it would blow your mind. So I'll be talking about that at one point in February. But everyone's life matters. And when you've been murdered and your family has no justice, there is nobody that's been arrested for the fact that you have been unalived and you are no longer on this planet. There can't be anything worse than that for a family member to suffer, knowing that the person they loved and cared about is no longer here. And the person who they believe took the life of their loved one is not being made to pay. Wednesdays with the Angry Bees, we focus on honoring women who are victims of domestic violence. There are 92% of the victims that were killed in 2018 were killed by a man that they knew. That is a staggering number, and it scares me. It scares me that this is what we're dealing with as women in our society, that we are being murdered, we are being unalived by people we know. Men we trust. 63% of that number were unalived by their current husband, boyfriend, or ex-husband. And this is just simple math, guys. This is the statistics that we get from the Crime Bureau. This can waver a little bit from year to year, but I saw a podcast a few weeks ago, and the gentleman said right out loud, do you realize, ladies, that the most dangerous person you're with by what is happening is your husband, boyfriend, or ex-husband or partner? And that should terrify everyone. It should terrify men and women. We have been honoring the life that mattered of Suzanne Morphew, who is on the left with her hand on her head, from Colorado, the life of Ellen Greenberg, the top right there with the dark hair, school teacher from Pennsylvania, and Sandra Birchmore, the young student police explorer from Stoughton, Massachusetts. They were all unalived, in my opinion, and we will reiterate that everything we've talked about in the last hour and 5 minutes and everything we're going to talk about in the next 30 minutes to an hour are opinions. All of us have opinions based on facts of the cases that we're looking into, based on what's already happened in the cases, any arrests that have already been made. But these are all our opinions. We are not here to slander anyone or to call anyone a murderer. We're just simply stating, based on the evidence, based on the facts of the case, in our opinion, we believe, at least I believe, and I know Amber's with me on this, and I think the rest of you ladies will, once you see the facts of these cases, that Suzanne Morphew, Ellen Greenberg, and Sandra Birchmore were all unalived by their current partners. Ellen Greenberg was a school teacher. She was living in a suburb of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And in 2011, she was found by her then fiance, Sam Goldberg, unconscious in the kitchen of their apartment. The 911 call is suspect at best. We played it for you in the Ellen Greenberg live stream that we did a month and a half ago. So I would encourage any of you that would like to follow this case with us or help us with justice for Ellen Greenberg to please go back to the live stream tab on our page, Social Change Warriors YouTube, and there you will see the live show. Our second live show, unfortunately, had some technical issues with YouTube. I did not use the word unaliving enough, so they scratched it on me. So we have to be very careful with the S word. There's a lot of words now, and I am totally not happy with that, just in case you can't hear it in my voice. I mean, freedom of speech, freedom of words, these are words that are in the dictionary. These are words that we've always used to describe atrocities. Why we are now being made to use other words, I don't understand it. And I want to know why more people aren't calling that out, because to me, that is utterly ridiculous. If you're going to take the S word out of the dictionary, then fine, I won't use it. But if the S word's in the dictionary, I'm using the word, and then you're going to strike my live and it's just gone. 2 hours of a live is just gone. So I have issue with that. And we are going to do a live stream about that, because I think that's just completely gotten out of control. Words that we can't say in 2025 that are words we've always said to describe crime and unaliving and death. So we have to be careful, because they could strike this whole show if I use too many of those words. But we are talking about these subjects, and that's what we're discussing. So Ellen was found with these 20 stab wounds, 20, and somehow her death was considered an unaliving that she did of herself. Nobody believes that. I don't know anybody other than maybe a small, tiny little amount of people that don't want to see this case for what it is, that don't want to find out who actually murdered her, who actually unalived her, would ever question the fact that she did not do this to herself. So please go back and watch, and we will be doing another episode now on Ellen because of our strike that we got from the last episode we did, which was a follow-up to the first one. We had a lot more evidence and a lot more interesting things to share with you that we've found. So we will be redoing that show in February. And I hope you'll join us for that. So Nicole, tell us how you got involved with Justice for Ellen Greenberg, and tell us about some of the people you've met who are live streaming and tweeting and Facebooking and social media about Justice for Ellen.
Well, probably back in October, I started to watch podcasts on YouTube. And normally when I go to YouTube, I'm looking for a workout video. So the whole true crime thing on YouTube is fairly new to me. I watch a lot of shows involving true crime, but I had never heard of Ellen Greenberg's case. And like I said earlier, I was watching Surviving the Survivor probably on November 14th. The only reason why I remember that date is because the next day I started my campaign on X to try to help her parents, Josh and Sandy, who were a guest on Joel's show the night that I was watching. And I just couldn't believe what I was hearing and seeing, because as you know, and some of you on the panel might know, her parents have spent like $1 million of their own dollars of their own money to try to get justice for their daughter, their only child. And they had a forensic team, or I don't know what they're called, but they reenacted in drawings the autopsy photos. So there's that one photo that has gone around the world of the 20 stab wounds that Kat was referring to, and nobody, there it is, thank you, nobody agrees that this woman did this to herself. So because I have a background in advocacy for cerebral palsy, there are things that I've done in that realm where I was successful getting a lot of eyes on something. So I said, well, you know what? I'm not on X. I don't like it. So I just was never on there. But I said, well, for Ellen, I'm going to go back. And for her parents, I'm going to see what I can do. And so on November 15th, I posted about it. And then my goal was to see what would happen if I could get, a lot of views on it. And right now we're almost up to 86,000. And, it's not even been 2 months. And my personal goal is to get to 100,000. And I have to thank you, Kat, Joel, and all. There's so many podcasters that have been talking about this case. Now it's going to be the anniversary of her death is coming up on January 26th, I believe, and it'll be 15 years. So you guys have kept this case in the news. So I thank you, because I'm fairly new to it, and I'm not an expert on the case. There's a judge who's going to be deciding on something at the end of this month. So I wrote a letter. People are writing letters in hopes that this judge, who has said on the record, I think he said he thinks it's strange what's going on with this case, with the determining how they determine the cause of death. So yeah, we all think it's strange. That's why people have been talking about it for the past 15 years. And her parents, I mean, these people are just heroes. We need a different word, because that doesn't seem to encompass. They seem a lot to me like Michelle, who we're going to hear about, who I don't know about her sister, but I'm excited. Well, not excited about what happened to her, but to learn about her sister. And Josh and Sandy, I mean, these people, they must be in their 70s at least, right? So they've been fighting all this time, and they're fighting corruption in Philadelphia. And I've never even been to the state of Pennsylvania, so I don't know Ellen. I didn't have the pleasure of knowing her, and the fact that she taught special needs kids was close to my heart when I learned that, because like I said earlier, I was born with mild cerebral palsy. And the fact that her parents, they come right out and say, we're not giving up. They might try to bankrupt us, the state, because they're just hoping that they'll go away. And they've even said this, that they'll pass away and then nothing else will happen in the case, because like Kat said, the corruption is so deep that if people aren't continually fighting to end it, like Colleen is doing and like everyone else on the panel is doing, then it just dies. So that's where the community aspect that Kat was talking about comes in, because I'm just one person. But I always tell people, if you go to my website, NicoleLuongo.com, and you see the stuff that I've done, your mouth will drop, because you think, well, how can somebody do that? Well, you have to be determined, and you have to put in the work, and anybody can make a difference with anything that they want. It doesn't have to be true crime. It could be anything that you're passionate about. I just felt like I had the opportunity, and I have the time, that I could help these parents, and hopefully, I believe collectively what we're all doing on social media in particular, I think it's going to make a difference. But I do feel, Kat, I want to know how you feel about it. If this judge, forgive me, I'm forgetting his name at the moment, but if he doesn't rule in their favor, what else could these people do?
Well, I don't know. And I'm nervous. This is nerve-wracking to me. I wrote on the Facebook for Ellen Greenberg page a couple weeks ago that we're going to have to organize a standout. I'll fly up from Florida. I don't care. I'll do it. We're just going to have to, because we need presence. Like if you followed the Karen Read, John O'Keefe's death, and Karen Read, and most of us believe she was wrongfully accused, wrongfully arrested, wrongfully tried. Now she's about to have a second trial, and we're going to be delving more into that. I have not had a live show yet about Karen Read and John O'Keefe, simply because I wanted to start the channel and follow victims of domestic violence and other corruption in certain areas. There were so many content creators following Karen Read. I didn't want my channel to be accused of grifting or of only coming on board because of that case, because that was never true. I started Social Change Warriors 5 years ago. So we have not covered it. We have talked about it here and there, but we will be starting to cover it now, because I have my own theories from my own background on this case. And the fact that there is a movement and that people have done standouts all over the country, and especially in Massachusetts, has really helped this case get worldwide attention. And this is what Ellen needs. Ellen deserves this just as much as Karen Read and John O'Keefe. She deserves it. And we have to find a way to get nationwide attention for this case, because her parents are running out of legal loopholes. They're running out of legal maneuvers. I'm just praying every day, crossing my fingers, whatever, that this judge, it's scary to me, because this gentleman here is her fiance. His uncle, and this is all fact, so this isn't shaming or accusing, this is fact. His uncle was a prominent judge in Pennsylvania. He was given access to the house prior to the crime scene. They let him go in and get Ellen's laptop, her cell phone, and who, God only knows what else. I have to finish reading the rest of the police reports. But they gave him access to an active investigation. That is absolutely unacceptable. And a judge of all people should have known better than to go into that apartment. So this has been stinky from the get-go, and something is not good. And I find it interesting, Mr. Goldberg, that now you're coming out and making media statements and going in People Magazine and CNN. Where have you been for 15 years?
Well, what they did was they picked that up. The People in CNN, CNN wrote the article. The gentleman who wrote the article did Thomas Lake, I believe is his name. He did a fabulous job. So those other media outlets, they picked that story up. So he's not talking to all of them. They're just picking the story up and they're writing about it, and they're including his statement, which, I'm sorry, I'm going to tell you, it's bogus.
Yeah.
Because he basically said, for those of you who don't know, oh, mental health is real, and I hope you never have to experience, but so he was basically blaming Ellen, saying that she took her own life because she had mental health struggles. Now, it is documented that she did see a therapist for anxiety, and the therapist flat out said that she did not have any unaliving thoughts.
Correct.
So it's just the
Who
case.
hasn't seen a therapist for anxiety? If you haven't seen a therapist for anxiety, you better go find one, because everybody has anxiety and depression on board. It's just different levels for different people. We all go through trauma in our lives. We all go through losses and job stressful, raising children. Just being a human in this life is stressful. So for anybody, for him to do that now after 15 years and to say the things he said about Ellen's parents literally makes my skin crawl, makes my stomach feel sick. I've never been this mad in a lot of ways about a case that I am on this one. I'm mad about them all, but this one has really got me. And I'm just so grateful to you and your willingness to come on board and what you've been trying to do.
But think about what he's never said. I have never heard that man. Well, this is his only statement, but anything that's ever written or what he has said, I've never heard him say, I miss Ellen. I loved Ellen.
Right.
I was going to be married to Ellen. I mean, I'm thinking in my mind, like, dude, something's not right with you, because this was a woman he loved. He was going to be married to her. And I never hear any.
He loved, allegedly. It's the definition of gaslighting of what you're talking about, Nicole.
Thank you for
statement was all
for pointing that
gaslighting.
out. The last thing I
let's
wanted to say is that did you catch? Not only did his uncle judge go into the crime, what we know is a crime scene, and take potential evidence out. Then they had the cleaning crew. Remember that the manager of the building or whatever called and asked the police, "Hey, is this okay for them to come in?" And they said yes.
I know. The mistakes, not mistakes though. This is when we do our live show and we talk about John O'Keefe and Karen Reed, the mistakes people call mistakes, they're not mistakes. These are criminals covering up a crime. This is premeditated. None of these are mistakes. Police don't make mistakes like this. Okay. I'm telling you, you don't make mistakes like this when you're a good cop. Good cops make minimal mistakes. Trust me, they really do. The training that goes into being a police officer, the in-services, the constant repetition of what you would do when this happens. There's very few mistakes that police make. It's a job where you can't afford to. It's like a firefighter. They don't make a lot of mistakes. And when they do, they die. Okay. So firefighters want to go home to their families. Police want to go home to their families. They make very few mistakes. It's the corrupt criminal cops, the dirty cops that are making the mistakes, and they're not mistakes. I cannot stress that strong enough. There were no mistakes made in Canton. There were no mistakes made in Stoughton. There were no mistakes made in Philadelphia. There were no mistakes made in Colorado, where Suzanne Morphew's still unsolved murder. These are not mistakes. These are corrupt criminals working with corrupt politicians. And that's what we're dealing with in the United States of America in 2025. And we have to be the voice. We have to be the social change warriors, because nobody's going to do this for us. We have to get communities involved. We need standouts. We need people to put their foot down and say, we are done with this. You don't get to be in this corrupt role anymore. Your freeloading fun time of using and abusing your communities and the money in your communities and getting away with crimes right under the noses is done. And until we start caring enough in our communities and not looking the other way, because this is going to keep happening. So we always have to call it out. We're going to have to teach our children to call it out, our grandchildren to call it out, our great grandchildren. There will always be white collar crime. There will always be scary murder type crime, because there will always be this level of sociopathic, narcissistic people in our communities. They're never going to go away. They're always going to be, they're going to keep being born. They're going to keep coming, and we have to keep fighting against it. It's not something we can end. We're never going to end it. We just have to keep fighting it and calling it out. That's what we have to do. Nicole, thank you so much. I'm just so happy to know you and to meet you. I'm looking forward to continuing to working with you on Ellen, Justice for Ellen, and whatever else has to happen to keep her case. We cannot let her life mattered. Her parents' life matters. And they have given up the last 15 years of their life to fight for justice. Thank you so much. Any questions for Nicole before we hop over to Michelle? Go ahead, Michelle.
I know you mentioned gaslighting with the Ellen Greenberg timeline, but I feel like it's more of a story building timeline is what's happened with this case and a lot of the other cases. It's basically, I was writing down as you guys were talking. It's just basically how much the person can get fabricated and how good they are at that storytelling to get others to believe that same story timeline that they want them to believe. So they can then make those unfactual things seem so factual and believable that the person kind of goes along with it because they're influenced by others. And I think with that case, because I read up on it a little bit, I think a lot of it was getting the medical examiner to somehow change the point of how the person was unalive. Was it intentional or unintentional? And then they used a storyline of her being on medication for the anxiety, even though the therapist said there was no underlying conditions or thoughts of doing anything. But then they used that little bit of narcissism, brought you back into the story by saying, no, she had different medications and mixing them made her have thoughts of doing that to herself. So she may have just impulsively, stuck herself 20 times. Obviously, that's unbelievable. But at some point, if you say it enough, people start to believe it. And I think they need to figure out how the medical examiner changed his thought process in that paperwork and why he did it and who it was influenced by with the timeline.
I can answer part of that. The medical examiner had a private meeting with other people that know it wasn't recorded. That's the problem. You know, we don't know what happened behind closed doors. And coincidentally, that medical examiner is now where I live in Broward County. He was the person who unfortunately had the task of doing the autopsies of the teenagers who died in the Parkland shooting, because I live in that county. So I'm sure you guys, that one was all over the news. But so that's just a fun fact that person ended up moving from, you know, Philadelphia to down here. But yeah, I didn't hear the part about her mixing medications. I don't know about that, but I do know that you know, yeah, everything you said is true. And I just don't understand how this stuff happens as often as it does. Probably because most people don't realize that it is happening unless it happens to you personally.
That's
So
right.
the frustrating part is getting something done. I mean, if the Menendez brothers could have a TikTok movement, then I think maybe there's hope for Ellen. But I do think it lies with this judge.
Yeah,
I don't know what
gonna
else
be
we can
huge
do.
when this happens, when this judge's ruling comes down. So April, thank you. You said, I think some cases also have love bombing. Absolutely, April. And we're going to be talking about that when we talk about narcissism, because again,
Don't say that word. Don't say the B word or put it in chat. Sometimes they'll strike you in YouTube, unfortunately, talking about words you can't say. Just FYI.
oh, that's true. I forgot about that. There's so many now. I've got to get out my rule book for YouTube of what we have to be careful with. It's crazy. But thank you, April. I appreciate that a lot. But we'll be talking about that when we do the live in a couple of weeks on narcissistic behavior, because most of these crimes that we are dealing with, these murders, they all have to do with sociopaths and narcissistic, definitely clinically narcissistic individuals. So thank you. All right. Thank you so much, Nicole. And we will be, obviously, I'll let you know when we're going to have our next live, covering some of the new information that was taken down off of YouTube that we covered, Amber and I, back before my knee surgery. We're going to redo it, and then we're going to have to be very careful going forward. That was our only live since August that got struck. So I actually appealed it. So I'm still waiting to see if they put it back up, because I wrote to them and explained what we were talking about and what the case involves, that this person was actually, we believe, unalived by someone else, not herself. So it all had to do with the S word. And so I appealed it. So I'm still waiting to hear back from YouTube. But we will have that in February, and possibly even the end of January. And I'm thinking even possibly January 26th, which is the anniversary of her passing. That's what we're going to shoot for, Amber. And I'll let you know, Nicole, because we'd love to have you back. Thank you so much. Michelle, let us hear from you. Let the audience know just the gist of what we have been living about with you the last, I think we've had 3 sessions with you now. If you can just give the women in this audience here and in our live stream chat box and for replay, just the gist of what is going on in your family with your missing sister, Sarah Ebersol.
So my sister, Sarah, went missing on March 3rd, 2023. And since the duration of that happening, you know, at first I thought the Marion County Sheriff's Department was kind of intently doing their job as one would think. And then I learned soon, very quick after, that they were not heeding the investigation in any manner. They actually talked about maybe even closing cases like my sister's down. And then I kind of started processing information in my sister's accounts myself, and I found out they weren't actively getting information to move forward with Sarah's case. And now I'm currently still fighting with the Marion County Sheriff's Department to update her missing persons flyer, where they're putting on an image of a truck from surveillance, where I located that truck 10 days after a missing persons flyer. So we're 1.5 years into a missing persons flyer that's outdated, and I can't get a response. I was just at the Sheriff's Department today, and no one in major crimes could come out and speak to me, and nobody was available. I was asked to set a meeting when they don't respond by email. So now we're just kind of in a limbo stage with my sister's case.
So frustrating to hear this. And I remember when you and I first met and you gave me the gist of this, I was just stunned. I'm like, how in the world do people just fall off the face of the planet? How do people just go missing, disappear, and nobody can find them? How does that even happen? Like, it's just unfathomable to me. I just can't even believe it. And hang on, Annette, I'll definitely get to you in 2 seconds. first of all, having a family member unalived by someone else and not having it solved or not having justice, but then having a missing person that you don't know where she is. She was just, one minute she was there, you were texting with her, and hours later you never heard from her again. And now the police have absolutely no clue where she is, what happened to her. And I encourage any of you that are interested in following Michelle. She has a Facebook page. I'll have Amber can type that into the chat box for us, or you can type it in yourself too if you want, Michelle. I didn't have it prepped, but I want to direct people to Michelle's Facebook page where she gives constant updates about what's going on with her efforts to continue to put up flyers about Sarah and her picture in the whole Marion County, Ocala area of Florida, which is Central Florida. My house in Daytona Beach, I'm about an hour actually from Ocala. So Michelle and I are hoping to meet up in person. So I want to share, Michelle knows this already, and so does Amber and Annette, and then I'll get to you, Annette, with your question. I, with Michelle's permission, contacted the Marion County Sheriff's Department the day after New Year's, January 2nd. And, I take that back. It was the 31st and the 30th. I tried to get the detective, not answering, left him a message. Tried to get the detective's administrative assistant, not answering, left a message. I'm like, well, it's the holidays. Okay, no problem. So then I got a hold of the records administrative assistant, and I gave her Sarah's name, birth date, case number, the whole 9 yards. She couldn't pull up the case. And I thought, okay, this person's been missing for almost 2 years. I've given you date of birth, name, and case number, but you can't pull up the case. That made no sense to me. So that made me think, okay, this case is locked. So this particular administrative assistant has no access to this case from the general public. So like if I were to call in right now to, let's say, the Madison Police Department, I'm still here in Wisconsin after my knee surgery, and I want to look up a case from maybe an old case of mine, I should be able to call up to the records secretary, records administrative assistant, give name, case number, date of birth, boom, it should pop right up on her computer. Unless a case is an active case, but it should still come up. It should just come up as active, and that it should have this big like disclaimer, no information can be given, redacted police reports only. I was confused by that. So then she gave me an email. So I emailed another records administrative assistant, and I said who I was and why I was calling, and that I needed to have the redacted police report for Sarah Ebersol, and that I was curious why the record secretary I spoke to on the phone couldn't pull the case up. Do you have it locked, or what is going on? So I never got an answer to that question, but I did get a 31-page redacted police report from Marion County. It was very timely. The administrative assistant was polite. She included the statement telling me why it was redacted, that the Florida statutes, that an active case, that I cannot receive a police report on an active case. So then I asked who the current detective, I wrote back and said, who's the current detective? Haven't heard back on that, but I called back again. So I spent a good hour calling all different numbers from Marion County. Then I talked to a dispatcher and I said, who is the active detective on a missing persons case for Sarah Ebersol? Well, he found it and told me. So he was able to pull up Sarah Ebersol and her birth date and tell me who the active detective is. So why wasn't the records administrative assistant able to pull the case up? So that is still an answer. I want that question answered because I want to know why that is. So now here's the part that is not cool, and I want to get all you ladies' opinion on this. Michelle, Sarah's sister, her family member, has requested this 31-page redacted police report for 2 years and has never gotten it. So riddle me this, ladies. What do you think about that? Annette?
Well, I was raising my hand because I wanted to, and this is what's in my head. Number one, when it comes to crimes against, and I'm not trying to make this a gender thing, but it seems like when there are crimes that are against women, the police departments do not take it as seriously as they do against crimes against men. With her sister, I was appalled when I was reading that. And we're all going to have a conversation later. But I was like, Question mark, question mark, question mark. And why are these officers not asking the same questions I have?
I agree. So Big Mike is back in the chat. Big Mike Ross. So Big Mike, who are you? Tell me a little bit about yourself and what makes you an expert on Sarah's missing persons case, because I've been meeting with Michelle for weeks and weeks, and I'm an ex-cop, I'm an ex-social worker, I'm an ex-journalist, and I'm 61 years old. And I find Michelle to be incredibly credible. She has told me nothing that I have not been able to check out on my own and back up. Amber and Annette agree with me. I know they do. So you tell me, why suddenly are you telling us, of course, this is a tragedy. Sarah's missing. Do you think it's okay that she hasn't been found for 2 freaking years? Are you okay with that, Big Mike? And who are you? Because I want to know, because if you're going to come in my chat and you're going to disparage one of my guests and tell me that she's talking and harassing people of interest. No, she's not. She's being a private detective. She's doing what the police department has not done. She's trying to find out what happened to her sister, for God's sake. So tell me, who are you and what is your interest in this case? Because you don't get to come on my live show and disparage my guests. These are victims of crimes as well. Any family member whose person is dead or missing is a victim themselves. So type in my chat box, because you're happy to do it. If you can't do that, then I'm going to have to exit you from my show, because we don't disparage people here on Social Change Warriors. We are trying to get down to the bottom of crimes. We give every family member the benefit of the doubt, but we vet them as well. We don't just randomly allow anybody to come on our show and talk shit. We don't do that. So Michelle was vetted by me by interviewing her, talking to her, looking up everything she told me, getting my own 31-page redacted police report, making my own phone calls to a Marion County Sheriff's Department that doesn't seem to want to call me back yet, but I'll keep calling them. So I see you're in no big hurry. So now you've said it's sad what trauma and tragedy can do to a family. She is fighting. Okay, so this is what Amber had to say, and this is the truth. So she says, at Big Mike Ross, it is sad what trauma and tragedy can do to a family. Michelle is fighting to find your sister for someone you love. Wouldn't you go to the ends of the earth to find them and get justice? Absolutely. Everyone in this room right now and everyone I know would fight for justice for their family member as hard as Michelle has been fighting.
Well, I would really like to comment.
Yeah. So if that's all you got to say, Big Mike, we're kind of done with you. So if you're not going to tell me who you are and why you think you know all this information, send me an email, send me a tweet. I'll listen to anybody, but you really shouldn't come into a live chat and start spouting information without any real proof. Or you could have gotten a hold of me before the live show, because my information is all out there. You could have tweeted me, Facebooked me. You could have done a number of things. I'm willing to hear and listen to anybody, but you coming on here anonymously and just spouting off disparaging comments about one of my guests is really not acceptable. Yeah, Michelle, go.
So when they talk about individuals talking, I assume they mean witnesses that my sister was with. Let me just say that the 3 individuals my sister was with, James Schaller, Tisha McDermott, and James Robertson. James Schaller reached out to me himself weeks after my sister went missing. As soon as he saw a missing persons flyer that my sister's roommate put up, willfully on his own, and provided images from them that evening without hesitation. Tisha McDermott also reached out with James Schaller because she was the girlfriend of him at the time. And she has, up until currently, still communicated with me via Facebook. So is James Schaller, even though he's been in and out of incarceration. I've never spoke to James Robertson. He is actually deceased. He's actually died of, unfortunately, self-inflicted drug use. And with that being said, I knew of all 3 individuals, obviously by April of 2023, and never did I drive to their home, approach them or anything, even though I drove past that house about twice a week. So I never inflicted myself into the case. I let Marion County do that, even though I gave them updates of whom they were and information they gave me. I did not go to Leonard Anderson, the driver of the truck, even though I knew where he lived and located the vehicle in his yard. I never approached him. I never spoke to him. I never called him. I never left any notes or notices on his home, residence, or anywhere. I let Marion County handle him directly and waited for their response. My sister's home, I never rushed to it. I never took photos. I let Marion County do that, even though it took them almost 2 months to get to my sister's home to speak with her roommate. As for the lawsuit, Kate, that was mentioned by Mr. Big Mike Ross, that was a restraining order filed by an individual that may or may not have been misidentified in my sister's case. And that individual did not win that restraining order against me. I won. And Marion County wanted to be a part of that proceeding to get the recordings because he was a person of interest. And he's part of this 31-page report and his vehicle being forensics. And I think based on everything he's saying, oh, and then custody of my niece. My sister had custody for the duration of my niece's life. The custody where my sister no longer had custody was not because she lost custody through any type of court system. Sarah, after years of abuse by Joseph Mayton, actually signed willfully after Marion County Sheriff did not help my sister when she filed restraining orders and stalking charges and things against Joseph. She finally gave up in the reality of the sheriff was never going to protect her or the police department. So Sarah signed custody over to him by force, where she, in regards, would still be able to see her child, thinking the abuse would not be as badly, and she would still see her child. So she didn't give up and or lose any custody. She protected her child.
Been there, done that.
Yes, excellent response, Michelle. And so basically, this is not uncommon, and Annette's going to talk in a minute because she can speak to this as well. This is not uncommon for victims of domestic abuse. They are so beaten down by the abuser, and there is just so little hope in them when they have lived with someone in a domestic violence situation or co-parenting with someone in a domestic violence situation, that they will do whatever they can for peace, because you are living constantly in walking on eggshells. It's a constant life of walking on eggshells. So you will do anything you can for a moment of peace. And if she thought that it would be best to just give him the custody so then she could get some peace and see the child, was that not probably the greatest thing to do? Probably not. But in her position, we don't get to judge until you've been a victim of domestic violence and you've been called names, slapped, kicked, punched, hit. You cannot judge someone who's lived in a domestic violence marriage or partnership, because you just can't even imagine the darkness that's involved in it. And
right. It's actually
yes.
beyond that. It's beyond police reports being made. It's not even just the abuse. The reports being made, and then when police do not protect you or the sheriff's department, then it becomes the police are actually self-inflicting the victim now, where when she would contact police to assist her and they didn't, and they somehow sided with him or acted like she was the problem, she would give up so easily because it would be worse on her later for her daughter, because she also had to worry about that gentleman's temperament when he went home with her daughter. And my sister and Joseph were exchanging twice a day by court order, 7 days a week, for a good duration until we got to the point of custodianship being given away. Because there had already been an issue where Joseph tried to get her to sign custody at a meeting point of a notary office. Sarah would not sign the paperwork. Police were contacted and they had a 20-minute standoff with Joseph where he would not give Sarah her keys, where she had her daughter in the car, and police did not arrest him. There was no hostage style anything where he was charged with anything. They had to argue to get her keys, and Joseph would not give the keys to the officer until Sarah handed over the only evidence she had for the judge was that paperwork of what he was trying to misconstrue and make her do by force. So it was given back to Joseph for her to get the keys and be able to leave safely with her daughter. So when things like that kept happening and repetitive style, and police did not act as they should have within the law, then Sarah had no way to protect herself any further. So in will, she gave up, but she didn't give up on her child. She still visited and saw her child.
Yes, absolutely. It happens all the time. This is so same old. It's like a broken record of the different cases I've looked into, my volunteer time in domestic violence shelters. This is just on and on and on with domestic violence. It's the circle of abuse. and it's terrifying. Big Mike, I just want to say that I appreciate you being in here, but I know you say here, first of all, I'm very sorry that we're all very sorry that you have a family missing. I would like to know more about this. You can feel free to email me. I'm going to have Amber type my email in the chat box. I would be happy to know about your case. I would be happy to look into it. But you were disparaging Michelle in your earlier comments. So texting doesn't always come off very good. It's not a great form of human communication. If you have questions for Michelle because you feel your cases are similar, then maybe you guys have something very much in common, where both your family members are missing and you're not getting answers to your questions and you're not getting police cooperation. So we don't want to disparage you. I want to give you the benefit of the doubt that maybe you just did not do a good job communicating in the chat box. It can be very difficult. I just have to call it like I see it. And when, Amber also saw your earlier comment, it did sound disparaging. So let's clear the air. We definitely feel for you that you have a family member missing. I am not disparaging or trying to be hurtful, but these are questions I also had. Maybe they get asked by the right person. So I'm not sure. Maybe you could reiterate that a little bit better. I'm not sure what you mean by that. But Amber will put my email in the chat box. Please feel free to email me. I'm happy to hear about your case and help you figure this out or find out what's going on. I'm curious what state you're in, what law enforcement agency this is. So let's see here. April. Is it also American? Yes, it's Marion County, April. I'm not sure where you're located in Florida, but that is correct. This is Marion County, which is the county that is surrounding the Ocala area, and Ruddick, which is where Michelle's sister Sarah went missing from. I know you want to turn, and it's your turn, my sweet Annette.
Oh, okay. Before we figured out what was going on with Mike, that is kind of how, when women are speaking out, they get attacked in a live or a X post, because that's how people hide behind it. And I'm not saying that's what Big Mike is doing by any means, but that's how it firstly came across.
Yeah.
As far as what Sarah did, I 100% understand that, because with my ex-husband, I left with the shirt on my back. And I never in a million years thought he would hurt his children.
Yeah.
Years later, when they're in their teens, then it happened. I had nowhere to go. I lived with his first wife's ex-husband because I had nowhere to go. Nobody believed me. Nobody would listen to me. I lived in a small town in Illinois where he knew all the officers because he went to school with them, and nobody would hear me. When I finally got out of it, and I was with my husband that I'm married to now, just celebrated our 13-year anniversary, I went in to get my nose fixed from him breaking my nose. And the doctor looked at my husband and said, "What the hell happened to this woman?" But nobody wants to listen. So I am praying that we get to the bottom of this, whether it be her ex or not, because if that is the case, those children, that child needs to be protected.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like her aunt's the only one that's going to do that. And
Good.
that makes me angry.
Yes, I hear it. And thank you for sharing your own personal story with us, even though it's not as much as I'd like to hear more. Obviously, we might just have to have a live with you alone to give us some background. But this is sadly, like
Can
I said.
I say something, please?
Yeah, sure. Just 2 seconds.
Okay.
Sadly, this is just like I was saying to all of you a few minutes ago. This is what happens when a woman stays in a marriage with a domestic violence partner. The woman's self-esteem goes down to zero. They do not have their own identity anymore. Their identity is completely absorbed by the narcissistic egomaniac that they're with. And all of these cases that we are discussing tonight involve a level of narcissism. And that's why we're going to talk about this in a couple of weeks. And we're going to parallel and show you these suspected men who we believe have hurt and or murdered their spouse or fiance or girlfriend, and how that parallels with narcissism. And that we'll be able to offer some good commentary on that when we do that in a couple of weeks. Go ahead, Amber.
I just want to say that this is a pattern, as you're saying, with people that are abused. And sometimes the system fails the people that are being abused. So unfortunately, they have to do whatever they think they have to do to survive. I bring up the case of Ashley Benefield in Florida, where she had done so many things to try to use the legal system to help her and get away from her abuser, allegedly, my suspicions, my belief. But nobody was helping her, especially because she's a woman. And no offense, men, you don't know, because you don't know what life is like as a woman. Okay, it is different. I have to sometimes, when I go to doctor's appointments with my son, if I'm not being taken seriously, I have to bring my husband. It sounds ridiculous, but it's the culture that we're living in. We just don't see it because this is what we grew up with. Just like somebody of a different color, you don't always see what they're going through to understand what is going on and what's existing. So that's what I'm trying to say is please have some sensitivity and understanding for people that are victims of abuse, because they are often neglected by the system, by other people. Mm-hmm. They may turn to things that we don't approve of, their profession or drugs or this or that. I'm not saying that with this case, but I'm saying we have no right to judge, because we don't know the trauma that this person has been through and the help that they didn't receive.
Thank you, Amber. That was so well said. And Big Mike tells us she isn't missing. She was abused and nothing was done. Complaints filed, lawsuits tried to be filed, but nothing. I'm just worried that one day this could happen, just like Elizabeth. Yeah, for sure. And so, Big Mike, if you could email me, I would really appreciate that. Amber, can we get my email in the chat box, or did we?
I have a bunch of emails for you, and I can't find which one you want associated with.
I'm going to type it in myself. I'll just type it in myself.
I apologize.
Yeah. Oh, no, don't apologize. No worries. I got it. I'm typing it in right now. So Big Mike, I'd like to hear from you. Send me an email. I want to know more about your case. Is this in Marion County? Is that what April is telling us? It looks like April also has a case. I am sorry, have my own case. She had been missing, but my daughter was recovered. It isn't only when they stay, it happens when they leave also. Can you kind of let us know a little more about that, April? Just go ahead and put it in the chat. We would be curious to know. And I'm curious, this is Marion County. So this is alarming, right? So, all right. I'm going to just...
Can I ask you a question really quickly?
Oh,
so you were able to get the 30-page report. Is it because you were in law enforcement? Because her sister wasn't able to get it.
Good question, because my email, and I copied it to Michelle, was that I told them that I am a former law enforcement officer, that I'm a community social work advocate, retired, and that I'm helping the family in the search for Sarah. It was a very short, sweet email that I had permission to send this. And I mean, technically they could put my name. They have a system for proving if someone was ever a cop or not. So sure, they could have done that. I don't think she did. I think she just took my word for it and sent me the 31-page report. So I have questions, Reality Check. That's what Reality Check used to have behind her name on Twitter. I have questions. I will be going over there in person, hopefully meeting up with Michelle, because I want to know why they are not giving her sister this 31 pages. Go ahead, Michelle. Oh, you're muted.
Well, my response on that is when I was denied access to the redacted report of any kind of redaction, like any one page, it didn't matter. They wouldn't give me anything. I was told when a previous PI had said he had had a partial redacted report and he had gained access to that by the supervisor, Jared Sheely, who's a sergeant at Marion County Sheriff. He stated because it was an active and open investigation, no one No one, not even a private investigator with law enforcement background, should have a copy of that report, and it would not be released to anyone. And he was going to see who released it and why. So that's just talking about when you said she had past law enforcement background, even though it wasn't mentioned in the email, like, hi, we're providing this because of your past, without any type of confirmation. They actually already told me that no one was getting a copy of this report. And then they basically gave it the same day, willfully.
Yeah. Well, I want to help you look into that, because that's just messed up and makes zero sense whatsoever. So I definitely want to help you, but I'm glad we got it, and I'm glad we have it, and that you and I can, I think what we'll have to do, because this live is going long, and I want to buzz back over to Colleen, and I want to hear what else is happening and what she's going to do next with her situation. And then I have a couple announcements I want to make, and then I would love to have you all back. I mean, these cases are just too important. My Life Mattered is just too important for all of these individuals. I'm just going to quickly skip back here for a second to gotta go this other side too. I just want to mention that we will be doing a full live show. We'll be doing another live show on Ellen, because the strike for me saying the S word too much. That's coming up. We will be that hopefully January 26th. I'll get that up soon on our channel. We will be doing a live for Suzanne Morphew, whose case is cold right now. She was missing for 2 years. They did not find her body. They arrested her husband. This is her husband. They released him after a certain amount of time because they did not have the body. They did not feel they had enough evidence. They did not believe that they could win in court. So they released him with prejudice, meaning that if evidence does surface, if her body is found, they can re-arrest him. Now, her body was found in April. It was found because they were looking for another missing woman in Colorado. That's the only reason. This was 30 to 40 miles, I believe. I have to double check that, and I will before we do the live, away from where they thought she would have been or could have been. So this was a complete fluke that they found Suzanne Morphew's body. It was buried in a shallow grave in the middle of nowhere, Colorado. They were looking for another missing individual. So they did the autopsy, and lo and behold, yes, Suzanne was unalived by someone other than herself, and it wasn't an accident. She was shot with a tranquilizer gun, and they were only able to know this because they were able to do some type of special DNA testing of her bones, of her remains, to tell us this. Now, it's no coincidence that her husband owned a tranquilizer gun, is it? And that he used it frequently. He was a big game hunter and used it to knock out animals and remove their antlers. There's a lot of other evidence that points in his direction. And again, sir, this is my opinion. I am not saying that you did this or that you're guilty. I'm saying, in my opinion, there's an overwhelming amount of evidence that looks like you could have done this. Otherwise, what are we looking at? A random serial killer in the middle of Colorado. Those are our options, because Suzanne Morphew didn't have enemies like that. People don't randomly kill women. If you remember the slide I put up earlier, 80, what was my percentages again? Let's go back to that, because this is why we're looking at you, Sam Goldberg. This is why we're looking at you, Barry Morphew. And this is why you're arrested, William Farwell, because you did unalive Sandra Birchmore. We don't know that for fact yet, but we have lots of evidence that tells us that you did. Where did I put that up for you guys? Again, 2018, I'll try to find a newer study. 92% of victims who are female are unalived by a man they knew. 63% were unalived by the current husband, boyfriend, or ex-husbands. So yes, we have every right statistically to look at you, Sam Goldberg. We have every right to look at you, Barry. And we have absolutely every right to look at you, William Farwell, because you are arrested and in jail and going to trial for every despicable thing that you did to Sandra Birchmore. So we will be doing a show honoring Suzanne. I did a live show way back at the beginning about justice for Jennifer Farber-Dulos, because even though her husband unalived himself, and there is evidence to suggest that he did unalive her, that it was premeditated, they have never found her. So justice for her continues, for her dear mother who's in her 80s, for her 5 children who have no closure because their just severely deranged father killed their mother, and we don't know where she is. He did not tell anyone before he took himself out. So we're still going to continue to talk about Jennifer Farbo Dulos in our lives. Sandra Birchmore.
Mine is for Colleen when you get to it. My hand.
Yes, good. And I will in 2 seconds. Sandra Birchmore was unalived by this man. That's what the evidence tells us. The jury will tell us if they agree with us. But 99% of us believe that he did this. And she was 3 months pregnant and was found unalived at her apartment. They, of course, tried to pull the same bull crap that they have pulled with Ellen Greenberg, saying that she was mentally unstable and unalived herself. And that went on, for the past 2-3 years? So we will do a show just for Sandra. We've mentioned her many times. We haven't done a full live for her yet, but we will. She was abused from the age of 13 by what I believe to be is a pedophile ring in Stoughton and Canton, Massachusetts. And I will tell you that it's definite that this was going on. There's no doubt in my mind. I've looked at the evidence. I've read lots about it to say this. I wouldn't say it if I didn't believe it. He is not your only person. There are more. And I don't know when and how they're going to bring him in or what evidence they're going to use, but he is one of many. This is a ring that's been going on in this area. There's no way at all that this is one person with one victim. The evidence just does not support that. So we'll be doing a full live on the life of Sandra Birchmore and the just disparaging, despicable way that she was treated by these Stoughton police officers. I can't even barely say the name police officer. It makes me sick that they took their oath and their line of duty and just completely stomped all over it. It's disgusting and despicable. So we will give due attention to you, Sandra, as soon as possible. So let's go back to Colleen. Let's end it where we started it tonight. And I will let you go first with your question, Annette.
First of all, I posted in the chat. Colleen's got the biggest set of balls I've ever met of any person. But I also want to know, because with what you're dealing with in that community, I mean, Sandra Birchmore is part of your community. How do you, as a woman, deal with all of the potential dangers and still stand up against all of this?
It's scary. It's scary. Like, I mean, I have pepper spray in my car. When I walk my dogs, I walk with a taser. Like, it's scary being a woman in this area. You can't trust the cops. You can't trust anybody. And it's when Sandra Birchmore, so I lived in Stoughton. Jeff and I had a house in Stoughton. We just sold it in June, moved. And the deputy chief of police from the Stoughton Police Department was our neighbor. And I remember when this all came out and they were doing the internal investigation and these guys, had a paid leave and everything. Well, this is when I was working at the shop. Jeff and I were leaving in the morning. We're in our driveway, and the deputy chief of police in Stoughton at the time, who did the internal investigation, came over to us and stopped us before we left and was like, I just want to let you know that, I do that internal investigation. And the text messages, the photos, and this is before anything came out with the FBI, was absolutely disgusting. He goes, they passed this girl around like a piece of trash. He goes, I will never be able to look at any of these guys in the eyes ever again. And he goes, and I don't even want to call them men. He goes, what they did to this young girl was absolutely disgusting. And he closed the he did what he did, and he left the Stoughton Police Department, and he's going to retire in a different town in Massachusetts as a cop. Disgusting.
Colleen, you have to encourage him to speak out. And I'm just saying this because we need good cops. And he might not be able to right now, but when he retires, maybe. We need more good cops that are calling out the bad ones, because we need our trust in our law enforcement again. It is sad that you live in a community that you have to feel that afraid, and especially as a woman. Again, I'm sorry, men, but you don't understand what it's like to be a woman, and especially a woman in a place like Canton.
Yep. It's just, yes, Julie, craziest person on earth. It is absolutely crazy town, clown town, like Colleen was saying. What is going on in Massachusetts is mind boggling. But I have to tell you, Massachusetts, Indiana is trying to compete with you, because Ed Byers is coming on the 9th, and he's going to update us on the crazy town corruption that has happened in Indiana, and the arrest with this sheriff, and the white collar crime that has happened, and the level of high up that it went. And I'm not talking about just in Indiana. It went high up to Washington, D.C. level politics. And Ed has been instrumental in calling it out. So if you've got Ed in Indiana, and you've got Massachusetts with Colleen and all the Rita and the Jen O'Donnell and the Sweeties, is that yeah, there's so much, Nick Rocco. I mean, there's so much going on with this great group of people that have been doing these standouts and showing up at these select board meetings. But if you've got it in Massachusetts at this level, and you've got it in Indiana, proven, right? You know it's happening in your state. We know it's happening in Marion County, Florida. I know it's happened in Daytona Beach and Volusia County, where I am. It's happening, it happens in Wisconsin. It's happening everywhere. Every state has some level of corruption that is slowly starting to get called out by citizens and by citizen social change warriors. That is the only way it's going to happen, because they're not going to rat each other out. They've got way too much to lose. So it's not going to happen. And we've got Ellen Greenberg, we've got Philadelphia corruption about the Ellen Greenberg case, and who knows what other cases that we don't even know about right now that are going on in America. It's stunning. It makes me nauseous. It makes me feel horrible, like almost like powerless in some ways, because like Colleen's saying, she's walking around with a taser when she walks her dogs, because she's brave enough to speak out about all this corrupt nonsense. But yet these people are dangerous, guys. These are not safe people. They are willing to do anything to get their way and have what they want, their money, their power. They're dangerous people. So I cannot thank you guys enough. Oh, go ahead, Michelle.
I got a question for Colleen. So I don't know her whole entire story, just what I heard tonight about it. But I guess my question is, I assume that if you had obviously surveillance and knew you were kind of being followed and harassed and kind of bullied around by certain officers, kind of repetitive style, I assumed you probably attempted to make some type of report to get them reprimanded in some way. And if you did, I want to know if the supervisor, did they say that your dead end road was kind of an area of that officer that was harassing you? Was it his area to patrol on the constant? Or was he going outside of his realm of where he should have been patrolling to be on your street and road more often than he should have been? You know, with outside of his patrol area, did they ever look into that? Why he was constantly on your road?
Okay, so the thing with Eric Wade, okay, he has a history of being a predator. He was promoted to deputy for the Canton Police Department, and he got caught at Sharon Lake with a woman in his patrol vehicle while on duty. There's also, you know, stories of him bringing drugs to women while he was working on duty. He would go after women on drugs and change the police report for blowjobs in the, sorry if I can say that, sorry, BJ's in the back of his cop car. So he was he slept with, I think, everybody's wives in Canton. He was demoted from deputy to patrolman and was allowed to work overnights and was still allowed to keep his deputy pay. So when I was working there, you know, this caused a lot of tension between Jeff and I. Jeff was like, oh, you know, don't say anything. He's, you know, he's just a predator. He's a creepy guy, all that stuff. And I'm like, I want to say something. So when I saw him in a Canton bar, CF McCarthy's. And this is right after he was showing up with Ed Walsh with issuing tickets. And I got right in his face in the bar. He was with his, sorry, I'll be nice, his girlfriend. And I got right in his face. And I go, I know what you're all about. You know, I got it. And he never showed up again. I called him out in the middle of CF McCarthy's. sat down with Jeff, sent him a round of tequila shots, paid the bill, and bounced. He never showed up again. But then Ed Walsh, Uncle Ed, I call him, started showing up with $500 tickets on a weekly basis after that. So then I started writing emails. I started writing because I felt like nobody was listening. And then I wrote an email to the town administrator, Charles Duty, because Charles Duty worked on the fire department with Jeff's father for years. So I thought, okay, maybe I'll get heard. So I wrote that email. Nothing came of it. I left Massachusetts. I took my dog, moved up to New Hampshire, and was up there for 6 months. And I didn't come back until last year when they approved the $7,000 of taxpayers' money. And Charles Duty, and then I was walking down a town hall. I was videotaping everything. I was starting to get loud, and I was sending emails. And I go, put me on the agenda for the next town hall meeting. They didn't want me at the town hall meeting. They had a secret meeting with Jeff and I to sweep this underneath the rug. And I marched to Duty's office, and I had a 2-hour meeting with him. I went through everything. And the first thing they brought to my attention was that Eric Wade retired and he was no longer a Canton police officer. Right? That they brought that to my attention when I came back last year. Right? Oh yeah, they took care of it. Oh no, mean to come out. He's still working details in Canton. This came out like about a month ago. I found out this information. So it's just like they try to sweep this underneath the rug like they do with all their corruption. They didn't want me getting loud at the town hall meetings. I had meetings with the select board members, Jeff and I, multiple times. And they oh yeah, yes us to death, yes us to death, yes us to death. I go, you know what? Screw that. You know who told me? Rita was like, no, Colleen. Get up there and say something. They've been doing this to you for too long. Don't let them get away with it. Rita pushed me to, use my voice and get up there.
He came in there with the unicorn shirt, though. Oh God, it's just such a circus. Like Ed was showing up with somebody, and the guy was wearing a rainbow unicorn shirt when they come to issue us tickets. It's a joke. It's just like a complete circus. Like I call it my Clown Town comedy special. Like I've turned this harassment and this like emotional distress into pure comedy, because it's like you guys are mentally crazy, delusional. Like it's like the old boys school like system. Like all the boys will look out for each other. They don't care about the women. Clearly, Canton police are the one that covered up the Sandra Birchmore case. She was living in Canton. Yeah, it was the Stoughton police, but she was living in Canton. And Canton and Stoughton, like if you got to go to Stoughton town hall to file, like, to go to court and stuff. So they work together. Stoughton and Canton, they work together. So it's like, and the Canton police covered up the murder of this young pregnant girl who was groomed, who looked up to police officers.
That's right, Colleen. And Colleen, you have segued yourself right into something that I want to say to everybody. We are going to live about this now because, like I said, I wanted to wait until the channel was more established and we had done cases on other victims that I wanted to follow, that I thought was important to bring to the stream, that I was following for years, like Ellen Greenberg and Jennifer Dulos. And then I learned of Sandra Birchmore and started talking about her, but I have not done her own live show yet because I was trying not to copycat all the other content creators who have done a fantastic job on everything to do with Karen Reed and John O'Keefe. And that includes Aiden, Turtle Boy, the #1 channel, biggest following. He does so much of it. I didn't feel that I could really add anything, but I do feel I can add something from my past and from my experience. And I do feel that some of my guests that I have found in the world that can add to it as well are in this room. And so we will do a live about Sandra. We will do a live about Karen and the trial, and that'll be coming up soon. And I have to say, so this is my opinion. This is my theory. I am just 85% convinced that the death of John O'Keefe is tied into the death of Sandra Birchmore. And I'll tell you why I think that. Because I think that this P word that I probably am not allowed to say either on YouTube, but I do believe that these men who are interested in children in that way have a much larger pull, a much larger circle than anyone realizes. And when you talk about this type of dark, disgusting behavior, it's very hard for people to go there. So people don't want to accuse anyone. They don't want to make it out to be more than it was. But look at how long Sandra's death stayed under covers. And as Colleen just pointed out, you're talking about towns that are what, 20 miles apart? And what did John O'Keefe do for a living? He was a Boston police officer. What division did he work in? Right? Crimes against children. I think you're going to see.
I think it was a sexual offenders unit or something like that. I forget the
Yeah.
exact title of
Yes.
it. You're right.
And why did he ask Chris where Kevin was that night?
There's a lot of little things that came out in the trial, little tiny things that you have to go back and watch again and again and make notes, because there's a lot that's just staring everybody in the face and nobody wants to go there because it's dark. But I'll tell you what, John Bonet's case is still unsolved. It's unsolved because it's dark and it's terrible and it's disgusting. And it was a massive, massive cover up. Protecting the bad people, the P's in the world, those that want to abuse children. That's why that case is still unsolved. And there is going to have to be something's going to shake up. I had an interesting conversation today with someone that I follow on Twitter, and we are on opposite sides. We've argued, we've debated, but always respectfully. I give her so much credit. We go back and forth. She has her reasons why she believes that Karen hit John with the car, and it's just as simple as that. And I have my reasons why I don't believe that Karen hit John with the car, and it's not as simple as that. You cannot watch that trial. I don't care who you are or what your background is or what you do for a living. Anybody with even a tiniest little bit of a brain cannot watch that trial and come and face me and tell me that liars after liars after liars didn't sit on that stand. You do not have to be an ex-cop to see that. You do not have to be a social worker to see that. You do not have to be a journalist to see it. You just have to be a breathing person to see the amount of lies that were spewed during that trial, one after the other after the other. Innocent people don't have to lie. People that were just simply witnesses at an after bar party don't have to make up stories, don't have to come up with crap after crap about what song they listened to and how many times they looked out the window and what they drank. And I mean, it's utterly ludicrous that these people in this trial and in this situation expect us to believe all this, to continually expect us to believe that all these people had absolutely nothing to do with covering up what happened to John O'Keefe that night. So we will be talking about that coming up. And any of you are welcome anytime to return to the channel independently on your own, have your own night, continue to update us on your cases, on what you're doing out there to get justice for these individuals that you have come to care about, whether you're related to them like Michelle, or whether you just came upon them and you want to do some good in the world like Nicole and Annette. And Colleen involved in her own trauma that these police officers have put on her and her, is it your boyfriend, Colleen, your fiance?
Boyfriend, yes.
Boyfriend. So
Yeah.
you literally had this put on you unwittingly. And if you wouldn't have stood up for yourself, they'd still be getting away with it.
Yeah. Yep.
So-
And Eric Wade would still be a cop.
And he would still be a cop. Absolutely. I have no doubt in my mind he would. And so a lot of these Canton officers should no longer be cops. And when is that going to come down the pipe? And when are the rest of the abusers in this P ring that's running around Stoughton, Canton, Massachusetts, when are they all going to get arrested? I'll tell you why it's taking so long, because this is evil stuff. This is corrupt, deep, evil shit. And that's why it's taking so long to bring justice to the rest of these idiots that hurt Sandra Birchmore and ultimately the one who murdered her, or unalived her, which is William Farwell. I hope you rot in jail for the rest of your miserable life, William. And I can say that because it's my opinion and I get to. And there's so much evidence against you. Can't wait to watch your trial. I think you better start thinking about a plea, but you don't deserve a plea. We don't want you to have a plea. You damaged and ruined the life of a young girl from age 13 who trusted police officers, who looked up to you. You don't deserve a plea. I don't want you to have a plea. And all the rest of your little cronies that ran in your ring, I can't wait to watch you all get arrested, one after the other, because that's what you deserve. So let's swing it all back to being your own best friend. In life, in murder cases, unaliving, corruption, white-collar crime, you have to be your own best friend before you can be someone else's, because this stuff is heavy. And it will burn you out. You will think about it all the time when you really shouldn't be, because there's only so much you can do. Even family members, Michelle, there's only so much you can do. You still have to take care of yourself. So to be the best friend to your family member that is no longer with you, to be the best friend to this person that you've come to care about because you met their case online, you still have to take care of yourself. It's important and you must do it. So thank you to everybody in the chat tonight. You were so interactive. I will take time now to make myself a cup of tea and I will read every single one of these. And I appreciate you so much for being in the chat live. To all of you on replay, if you have any questions, please email me. The email is showing up a couple times across the top. Can't thank you enough, ladies. I respect you. I'm honored that you want to come on this live and meet with me and talk to me. And you are all welcome back anytime. I hope you know that. And if there's anything I can do for you on your cases, please, please let me know. Any last thoughts? Let's go around the room.
Who are we starting with? Are we starting with the loudmouth broad Amber?
Yes,
I thought you meant me.
That's what I said, Colleen. They're scared of us loudmouth broads. And I told Rita, I'm like, they're scared of some middle-aged women, huh? Like, it's crazy. But the things that you do are amazing. Everyone here is so intelligent, well-spoken, and caring, and everything that you're doing for your communities and the people that you love. I'm truly inspired. You guys are the heroes to me. And I will always and forever bow down and say I'm not worthy. But I appreciate everything that you do. I appreciate you being here, and we're going to continue to fight. It was Colleen. I learned so much more that I thought I already knew, and I didn't. So thank you for letting us know. And Nicole, it was great to meet you. Michelle, I adore you, and I'm so connected to. I'm getting goosebumps to finding Sarah. Like, we're not giving up on that. That's a priority. And Annette, great friend, and Kathy, love you. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
I'm just going to jump in real quick and I'll get off so everybody else can talk. I told Colleen tonight, I didn't feel like I was worthy to be on with her because she is a true outspoken warrior. And now that I've met Michelle, oh my God, what a powerhouse. And Nicole, it's so nice to meet you too. I am in awe of all three of you ladies, and I'm excited to continue the journey with all of you to get justice for all of you. And that's all I'm going to say. Thank you, Kat and Amber, for being my friends and being a support to women and victims and families who are trying to get justice. I love you all.
Anybody else have any closing thing they want to say before we go? And I'm losing my voice. I'm so sorry. This, I thought for sure I'd be past the COVID by now, but I'm not. So I had to go back to the doctor today. So, and again, I want to thank all of you that have supported me through this knee surgery, getting COVID in rehab. It's been a long 5 weeks and we've still managed to do live shows except for Christmas week. I don't know how we did it, but we did it. And I thank you all. Comments on Twitter have been really meaningful to me in private messages, direct messages, and all of you have been great. So thank you so, so much. And we will be back next week. I'll post our shows on Facebook and Twitter, but they'll also be on our Social Change Warriors YouTube channel. You can see them there. They're all scheduled. And we actually have a new case that is going to be quite interesting. And you'll be meeting the wife of a, unfortunately, deceased gentleman from my Volusia County. And it is involving the Volusia County Sheriffs and the New Smyrna Beach Police Department, where I used to live in New Smyrna Beach, which is just south of me. And she's going to share with us what happened to her husband and why she feels there was improper police procedure that caused, that added and contributed to his death. So we will be meeting her on January 8th. And then Ed will be with us January 9th. So that's next week. And then we'll be circling back around with Michelle, with Ellen, with Colleen, and with Sandra Birchmore, and with John O'Keefe and Karen Reed. So any final comments from anyone before we close out? Go ahead, Michelle.
I wanted to say thank you, but I did want to comment on one person that commented tonight. I know when you saw the April Counterman account, that's actually a mother and daughter team for Cody Counterman, who's actually had some injustice go on in Marion County, Florida. Now they actually found their daughter, but Marion County actually withheld a lot of information when she was found. And that family's been fighting everything from the departments to the state to the medical examiners to get things changed where she was found, and it obviously was pretty confident that, she was unalived by somebody else. And it was written off like it was just a simple OD of some kind, even with bite marks on her body.
Oh, for God's sake. Well, maybe you can put me in touch with them and see what we can do to help them. Absolutely. That's horrific. Well, thank you, Amber. I appreciate you saying that. Yes, I am dedicated because this is meaningful to me. This is meaningful volunteer work for me in my age, in my retirement, and standing for victims who are being abused by the system and against corrupt police and government is meaningful to me. So I'm grateful to be doing this work. I'm grateful to know all of you, including you, Annette. I know you took yourself down into the green room, but we're grateful for you. And I'll look forward to meeting with all of you again. Colleen, thank you so much. I'm really excited to have another live with you. I want to know more about this and know what we could do to help spread the word about what has happened.
They shut down the town hall meetings.
Yeah.
They do it on Zoom now.
Yes.
So I go out. So I stayed outside their house with a microphone during the meetings. But these men, they're just bitches, and they shut down the meetings. They don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear how angry the women in Canton are and what's going on in the town. They don't want to hear the truth that they're doing Zoom meetings now. That's such a pussy move.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
They're cowards.
Yes.
They're complete cowards. They're afraid of the women.
Better word.
And it's insane. And you know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to say this really quick. Trish, total disappointment. So sorry, but she was a total disappointment. Rita should have been on that board.
Yep. And Trish is a snake. She's getting controlled by Conley. She can't think on her own. She doesn't have a backbone.
Yeah, that's disappointing. I've watched many of your meetings, and I mean, Rita is amazing. Rita Lombardi, the work that she's done to stand up to the Canton Select Board. I mean, that town needs such an overhaul. I mean, that entire select board, anybody that takes the time to watch those meetings, it's utterly mind-boggling. And then they couldn't even get Sandra Birchmore's name right. This woman is unalived in your town, and you're on a select board and you don't even know her name. I mean, I was so offended by that. I tweeted about that for days. That upset me so much. Amber, yes, April, we're incredibly sorry for your loss, and anything that we could do to help, Michelle can help connect us. We will do it for you. Happy to do it. There's just too much going on, too much injustice. And again, we have to rally the troops. This is going to take a village in every state. Every state that's got corruption is going to need Rita Lombardi's and Colleen's and all of the other people that have really stood out in Massachusetts and you're showing the world what it means to be a community and how you can stand out and have these standouts in your town and show up at your meetings and fight injustice. And this is why they're going to keep doing what they're doing, because they've never encountered this before. These bullies, these narcissists are not used to, especially women, telling them what to do. They don't want to stand for it. And so all you can do is keep on showing up. That's your role in life now, is to keep on showing up in your communities and fighting the corruption. And that's what we can do. So we're doing something. So we shouldn't feel, sometimes I feel very helpless, but we're not helpless because we're talking about it and we're live streaming about it, and you're showing up in your communities and you're protesting. And that's more than most people ever do in a lifetime, what you're all doing in the last just few years of these family members and friends people that you now consider friends have been victims of these crimes and of these corporate criminals, because that's really what they are. Well, guys, we are going to say goodnight. We had an extra long show tonight. We hope you enjoyed it. Thank you again to everyone in the chat. I appreciate all of you and coming back every week. And we will keep on keeping on. We're going to keep on calling out corruption. We're going to keep standing for victims and their families. And that's what we got as the, what is it that you're all saying in Canton? We ain't got no quit. So we're going to borrow that. And try to remember our hashtags are Raise Your Voice and Just Us and My Life Mattered. And now we've added Be Your Own Best Friend as one of our hashtags, because this goes way back to when I first did my presentation to the high school kids about alcohol awareness. I told them to be their own best friend. We weren't hashtagging back then. That was back in 2000. But we're adding that as one of our hashtags now for Social Change Warriors. So thank you, everyone who joins us tonight, any night. Thank you for caring about your communities. And just get up every day and be your own best friend. Good night, everyone. Let's see, we are still live, so give me a second here, guys. I have to figure. Stand by a second, because we're still live. So to those of you that are watching, we're not supposed to be, but it's not letting me. I'm going to have to end the stream. It's not giving me, for whatever reason, my button to actually end the live is not showing up, and I am not sure. So it's going to make me end the stream. So I'll probably have to conference call with the three of you, if that's okay.
Okay.
Michelle, send me your phone number. Just send me it in a private message.
Okay.
Because, I'm looking for it, but I don't have it. So good night, everyone. We're going to end the stream now. Thanks for coming.